You're about to listen to TADPOG, Tyler and Dave Play Old Games. It's a comedy video game podcast. We would like to stress that the hosts are not experts and are really just very crass commentators. Seriously, this is an explicit podcast that happens to talk about video games sometimes. So please enjoy this pretty okay podcast with Tyler and Dave.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to three old dudes finally being back together with one other old dude who hasn't been on the show being on remotely. Play old games.
I'm pretty sure you just said old doo-doo.
An old...
Good old doo-doos.
So, we are talking about, courtesy of the Randomizer, King of Dragons for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
That's right.
And of course, this was on a short list to bring one Sandwich Pope Phil Hawkins on the show for. So welcome back since Cool Patrol, maybe?
596 Bassmasters Classic, February 3rd, 2021.
Yeah, Bassmasters Classic.
I have
How can we ever forget?
I have a house guest visiting us this week, and
You have a house
they wanted
guest?
to know
Congratulations.
what episodes I have been on. Yeah, it's both Kid and Play are here, and we're going to have a wild party. It's going to be
It's a
great.
regular house party.
Hey.
So something for the wiki. This will be the first episode Ian and Phil have been on together for. So.
Yes.
Yeah, you
That's
guys
one
have.
for the books.
Ian has kind of replaced all guest hosts remote. He's Ed McMahoned this chair very effectively.
Yes.
All right, you are. That is correct.
That was my Phil Hartman doing Ed McMahon.
Yeah, I don't actually know how Ed McMahon sounds. I just know what Phil Hartman sounds like doing Ed McMahon.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm kind of the worst because it's like a few episodes ago I was talking about like the Carson show and like how it was really important and all that.
Yeah.
And I've been watching like a lot of Conan clips and Letterman clips on YouTube. So it like recommends stuff, and it recommended a Carson clip, and I watched like 2 minutes of it, and I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Carson appealed.
I can recognize it was important. That's really good to me. Moving on.
But I don't appreciate it.
Yeah. Carson appealed more to the older crowd.
Yeah.
And to the kids who, like me, who were lucky enough to get to stay up
stay
late
up.
and watch Carson.
Yeah.
There are a few. I'll never forget the Carson bit where he has on the guy from Dragnet, and they're doing tongue twisters.
Was it Friday?
Yes.
All right.
And he
doesn't move his arms when he walks.
man.
Thanks, Nick at Night.
Thank
for that,
you. That's all I ever think
for that
about.
fact that's chiseled into my brain until the day I
Forever.
fucking die.
Core memory activated.
It really is. I'll
I
never
know.
forget that.
It's fucking wild. It's insane. Can I remember my third grade teacher's name? No, but I'll remember that fact from Nick at Night forever.
But because he's so stone-faced, and he's perfect. He delivers like a minute-long tongue twister that's unreal without pause, flinch, anything. I remember like when I was a senior, my drama teacher brought in like the best of Carson. We watched like 2 hours of it, and that's the one that stood out to me forever because I thought that's amazing.
That is amazing. I'll have to look that up. That's probably on YouTube. I would have stuck around for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always liked when he would bring on the animal guy, the zoo guys.
Jack Hanna.
There we go. Thank you.
That was always a fun one for me. I always liked seeing the animals would all inevitably crawl up into someone's hair
Right.
or shit on them or
Yeah.
something. So, yeah, it was a good TV.
So before we bear down on King of Dragons,
Too soon,
what have you been
man.
up to?
Too soon.
I finished up. I mentioned off mics last week that I started watching Death Note, the anime, on Netflix, and I finished it yesterday or the day before yesterday.
Are you going to watch the Netflix
I
live
already did.
adaptation?
I already
You
did. I had already
You had
watched
already
it,
watched
but
it.
it was so long ago I barely remembered.
Gotcha.
All I remembered from the live action one was that Green Goblin was in it. as Willem Dafoe.
Is he in it?
Willem Dafoe plays Ryuk,
the demon.
the death god, but
Okay.
he's using his Green Goblin voice. So, and they
Yeah.
don't ever really show Ryuk very close up. Ryuk, for those who don't know, is this Shinigami, a god of death, who bestows this notebook.
You know, I'm a bit of a god of death myself.
I fancy myself a bit of a god of death. He drops this notebook for this kid to find, and when you write someone's name in it, they die. I'm not going to get any farther into it than that, because I think most people probably know that if they're at all familiar with Death Note.
Yeah.
But they're
But-
like 38 rules or something else.
It's a
beyond
lot
that.
more. It goes
Yeah.
up into like the 80s at some. And I think they, obviously, I think they were writing a lot of those along the way as MacGuffins to cover some
Yep.
potential plot holes. But no, I really enjoyed the cartoon, the anime. I really thought it was good. I thought it was a little long, and I think towards the end it was a little bit contrived. But at the end of the day, I did enjoy it a great deal. My youngest son, Miles, is super huge into anime, and he was thrilled to find out that I had been watching more since hosting the show with you guys. We watched Full Metal Alchemist, and I watched Cowboy Bebop and Avatar and all those. So he was thrilled to hear about that, and he recommended it. So I watched it, really loved it. But then I did go ahead and rewatch the live action one. And I got to tell you, taking like 37 episodes of a very popular TV show and condensing it down into an hour and a half long movie, it doesn't work.
A little impossible, maybe?
It's a completely different story, and they actually leave you hanging on a particular fact that I feel like needed resolution, because I know I doubt they're going to make a second movie.
Nope. They got flamed so hard.
Oh,
there's no way.
they did. They really did. And I could see why. For the uninitiated, I could see how it might be a neat horror film. But you miss out on so much by not having seen the anime. A lot of the little Easter eggs they throw in there and the little references to the original cartoon to, for fan service,
Yeah.
are just missed.
Because, you have time for that in an hour and a half.
Definitely.
Condense all that stuff down.
Definitely. But I did enjoy it, and that was kind of the highlight of my week, really. Everything else was kind of mundane. But I'm moving on to, I don't know what I'm going to watch next. I'm still in a anime kind of state of mind, so I may watch Attack on Titan. I was told that was really
Nice.
good
I
by
really like the
Miles.
first season. If you want to cry,
Yeah?
I was going to recommend this one to both of you, actually. Ranking of Kings
Okay.
is one that is like, it looks like an anime for children, and it is 1,000% not.
Okay.
And like, I've watched 3 episodes of it, and like at the end of even like the first, every episode so far has been like gut wrenching. So yeah, like yeah,
It's just an anime, and it cannot be that sad.
What's it
yeah,
called?
it's been rough. What were you saying, Phil?
What's it called?
I believe it's called Ranking of Kings.
Ranking of Kings. Okay.
Let me verify that real quick before before I go 1,000% on the record. Yeah, Ranking of Kings. It's we've been watching it on Crunchyroll, and I think it's got a second season now, but we're just working through the first season. But like, if you Google it, it's like the first image you'll see, you'll be like, I don't see how this could make me. I don't see how this children's show could make me possibly feel emotional at all. But essentially, it's about this kingdom where the king is this, like, he's become king by like proving himself in battle, and he is like in the anime they really play with style and like how things are drawn, and he looks very like. He looks enormous. Like he legitimately looks like a titan, and he's like drawn with like deep lines. So he's very like muscular, and he's like, he is the king through battle, essentially. Like he defended the land through battle, and because of that, he's king.
It's good Gregor Clegane.
So yes. So it's like, well, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure exactly where he lies, honestly. So, but he did a good thing.
Yeah.
So he has 2 sons. And so like this whole kingdom is like raised around like being strong and being powerful. And he has these two sons, and it's like one of them is going to have to succeed him because he's dying. And there's one son who is a total King Joffrey, if you will, and he's very good at everything, and he shows potential to be powerful and like a good swordsman and all that. And then his other son is mute, essentially, and it's like it is insane how much like I don't. It's like the amount of they do a really good job of like making you empathetic towards this character, and it's like he goes through a bunch of bad shit, and it's like every time I see it, it just breaks my heart. And then they do that thing where it's like, but then the really good thing happens, and then like at the peak of that really good thing, they're like, and then the bad thing happens. It's like
that tracks.
It's a clip.
Yeah, that
so
tracks.
I mean, it's just constantly just up and down, up and down, up and down, and he like befriends this. Like this demon creature who is kind of like the last of his kind kind of deal. He honestly looks like the dwarf in the jar from like Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay.
He looks like that, like a cross between that and what's that Matt Groening show, Disenchanted?
Disenchantment.
The little devil character is like a mix between like those two things. Who like. In the first episode of that, like he meets the prince, this mute prince, and they have this like relationship that's like, man, it really like shows like the endearing qualities of the prince, because like he's just like he goes out and then the demon essentially robs him, and it's like, give me everything you got, and like he doesn't have anything, so he's like, give me your clothes. So like the kid just takes his clothes off and gives it to him, and like then just tags along, like we're friends essentially. So like
kind of like giving Dobby a sock in Harry Potter.
Presumably, presumably. I don't know. I've seen 1.5 Harry Potters.
If you give it, you know who Dobby is, right?
The house elf.
Little house elf.
Yeah.
If you give something to a house elf, they're immediately free. It's what frees them.
Okay.
But they are kind of a life debt to you now. Sort of Chewbacca-esque sort of deal. They're always going to be around for you.
That's how. Did you know?
At least for Dobby, that was. Most house elves in the Harry Potter universe are fine with being like basically slaves. That's what they've been brought to believe that they should be. But Dobby was all about
like
it.
Mr.
So he gives Dobby a sock, and then Dobby's like, and house elves are like ridiculously powerful magic users, like way more powerful than like most wizards.
Yeah, they don't need wands.
They don't need anything.
Their magic
They're
functions
just
differently.
They're just boom, do whatever. And Dobby was a badass.
Did you know that Han got Chewbacca by giving him a sock?
Is that right?
Yeah.
I thought it gave him his bandolier.
It was a space sock.
It was a space
still,
sock.
It was a sock.
Right, a hyper sock.
It's hyper sock. So anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a long thing about that, but hey, it seems like a pretty good show.
I got one other thing I wanted to bring up, if it's all right.
Yeah, please.
I don't want to take up all the time, but
We got time.
I got anybody who knows me knows I love pizza. I love me some pizza, and there's this place that opened up in Paducah recently called the New York Lounge.
What? No, I didn't know about this.
It's the New York Lounge?
Nine Lounge. Okay. Their logo is fucking horrible.
Yep.
It's awful.
Oh, is that a joke on the logo?
Yeah. It's
okay.
like
It says everything twice. It's
it says
awful.
everything. When you read it, it reads as Nine Lounge. But
Is this a visual novel?
it started.
the Nine Lounge
It's
Lounge?
in that big. Welcome to Paducah Cast. It's in that place that used to be that big Chinese restaurant over by where I live.
Oh no, not the cursed building.
Oh yeah, it's in there.
Yep.
Well, it originally started as it was just going to be a nightclub, and they were going to have bands, and that never
Yeah, I
works
remember.
around here. It never fucking works around here.
Yeah.
So apparently,
And it won't. I mean, let's be
won't,
honest.
yeah.
I mean, we're just not that kind of. We're not a nightclub having town.
not
Nope.
really. But so apparently that didn't work out. But they had already spent all the money to get the place done right. They cleaned it and made sure everything was safe and no more mice and all this stuff. But
Mice are
some
safe.
other guy took over, and he turned it into a pub/pizzeria. And so now it's called the New York Lounge Pub and Pizzeria.
Okay.
Which is great. It's fine. So we were like, and they have a carry-out special. It's Brooklyn-style pizza, and you get a one topping for like $8.50 or something. It's cheap.
Okay.
And I thought, all right, worst case scenario, this pizza's going to be awful, and I've blown $16 on a couple of pizzas. No big deal, right? It takes a lot to make me hate a pizza.
Oh boy,
it's got to be racist as fucked.
Yeah.
You know what grinds my gears?
It's foreshadowing a little bit because so for the last, we usually get a pizza every week, one night every week, and we went the first time and we went back. We kept going back to get more because we really enjoyed the pizza. It was
okay.
It's very basic, very simple, but it was good and it was cheap. So we were
That didn't go where I expected it to.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yet. Here where the mice come back in.
No, nothing that bad. Nothing that bad. We go back this past week to get some pizza. It was like Thursday night or something. I place my order. And I go and then I sit in my car I live really close to there. So I went ahead and left. And I sat in my car for a minute, watched the protesters across the street for a few minutes, and then went in, picked up my pizza. I had to stand in there for a few more minutes, picked up my pizza, took it home, opened the box, and they were both just burnt. Like burnt to a crisp. Black almost.
Like on
like
top?
dry. Yeah, top, bottom.
Because I've had burnt bottom pizza before. And
This
that's
was
not
the
good,
cheese
but-
was burnt.
What the?
Both pizzas were burnt. One was
Wow.
just a cheese pizza. The other was like a half pepperoni, half sausage. They were both burned. So I'm like, nope, they're close enough.
Yeah.
I'm calling them.
Yeah.
I call. Of course, the woman that answers the phone is the one woman that works there, which is his wife, the owner's wife. I'm like, hey, I just picked up my pizzas. They were burnt. I'd like to see about getting either my money back or getting them redone.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Let me go get him.
Hold on, he's busy coming on a pizza. Can you hold?
Hopefully. not on that one
He's
yet.
busy burning a pizza. Can you hold a minute?
So after a minute, he gets on, and I'm like, hey, the pizza's burned. It just is, and I'm not trying to make trouble. I just don't, I can't eat this. Sir, that's the way our pizzas are. I'm like,
Oh my God.
I'm like,
Starting
okay,
today?
Okay, so let me make this clear. This is not the way these pizzas are supposed to look. Well, the kind of ovens we use, they get all just south of well done every time. I'm like, dude, I have purchased a pizza from you, at least one pizza a week from your establishment every week for the past month and a half. None of them have come out looking like this. Well, man, when you order, you got to tell us that you want a light
non-burn pizza.
a light bake is what he called it. A light bake. I'm like, I have never had to tell you that I needed a light bake.
Sir, could you blaze this one, please, for me?
Did he also say like Gordon Ramsay's gonna love this pizza? He is.
He goes, yes.
Man.
He goes, well, I mean, I guess I'll remake them. I'm like, okay, I'll be back. He goes, you need to bring those pizzas with you. I'm like, of course. I want to make sure we didn't eat it all and then say it was
You put
burned.
these in your oven and burned them and brought them back. I
Right.
know what you're doing.
So
The old Berta pizza, dude.
because that benefits me so much, with gas being so cheap. Anyway, I picked up the pizzas, got them in my truck, drove back down the street to the
Oh,
place.
God.
No, it's fine.
I'm just hoping that your new pizzas were burnt. That's all. See, I told you that's how we make them.
He intentionally, you didn't say light bake. Remake them for me, light bake. You didn't say that.
Sir, we're teaching you a lesson.
So I go back, and I go back in the front door, and I set the pizzas on the counter, and of course he comes out, and he has a broken leg, so he's like walking on this big plastic thing, hobbling out there holding these pizzas. And I was like, hey, man, thanks for redoing those for me. I don't mean to be any trouble. It's just that these, we just couldn't eat that.
These
he
are
opens the ones I bring back to make sure I brought back all the pizza. But he looks at him and he goes, yeah, this is the way these are supposed to look. And I'm like, let me just reiterate to you that I bought a lot of pizza here. It's never looked like this. I opened the new ones. to check. They looked fine. They looked
but those
good.
are light bake, Ian. Come
Those
on.
were light bake, you fucking idiot.
You
I was like,
rube?
this
What
is the
hell?
way the pizzas have always looked. Yeah, you got to tell us. Like, I'm like, okay, man.
Wow.
I said, look,
Sir, your customer service, I got to say, is excellent.
You gotta ask for non-rude service. You didn't say non-rude service.
Sir, you've been a delight to speak to today.
anyway, so I was like, thanks for that and whatnot. And I took the pizzas and went home and we ate them. But before I left, as I was going through the door, he looks at the pizzas again and he turns around to me. He goes, hey, do you want these? And I was like, no, they're burned. And I left. And I went home and I told Tanya the story. And I said, at this point, I would rather just get it from somewhere else because I'm not going to pay good money to be gaslit about whether or not the pizzas always look like this. So it's like, nope, fuck it. So
Those
Nine Eye
pizzas were
Lounge
plenty
Lounge.
gaslit.
Nine Eye Lounge is off my list.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn.
It's a shame too because again, it was decent pizza, and up till now I hadn't had a problem. But if the guy, if it was just a legitimate mistake, which it was
Sure.
because there were people in front of me, I know he left it in there too long, and he was like, "Oh shit," and he was pulling it out.
Right.
It's fine. This is the way we do it.
Yeah, don't try to pass it off.
No, if
Oh, my
he had
God.
just said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me redo those for you," and sent me on my way.
Hey,
It
man,
would have been a one-time thing.
Gordon,
and I
our
wouldn't have
food's
said
amazing.
shit.
I don't know why no one's coming back anymore.
But no, it's
with pizza
not.
profits as slim as they are, I mean, sometimes you got to sell a couple burnt ones.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hell, he was practically giving them away by the time he made me the other two. But, I'm not about it. They're not going to last much longer. Every time I go there, there's literally no one there. It's like, and
That
her
built-
kids are like running around all the time.
yeah, that building is like, I'm sure this is very interesting to
Sure.
non-Paducah
The
people.
ghost of Bobby Holman, it's there somewhere.
Oh yeah, well that building's so huge.
It's
You know what I mean?
enormous.
And it's like I
It
don't
was
know.
made for, a big Chinese buffet is what it was for so long.
That's even like by today's standards, that's way too big
It's a
for a
huge-
restaurant. Unless it's like
It's got
the
like
restaurant.
4
I don't know
big rooms.
what could go in there. Yeah, and it was a destination place when it was the Holman House. Because remember they had
Right.
the coffee room and the garden room with the swings.
But that's
and,
what it needs to be. Is
was
like a destination.
yeah.
It can't just be some place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it really
They need
has
to turn
be
it into a 4-room bingo hall, and it will be packed to the gills every
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
I don't know. Phil, what do you think?
Yes, agreed.
All right, I'm done.
See if I can put them in the show notes. New York Lounge. Everybody order live baked pizzas from New York Lounge.
No, don't. They're kind of struggling. I'm not trying to bring hellfire upon these people.
I know you're not.
Just call and complain that your pizza's burned.
Don't give
and then hang up.
Don't
say when it was.
Don't
say
do
say you
that.
want
Don't do
Do
like
not
for
do
real.
that.
My sister kind of did I tell this story on the show? She probably it's a pizza related story.
Uh-oh, okay.
And she probably I don't know. She's probably fine with me telling it. She's vegan. And she and her husband were
plus $4 stats.
yeah, absolutely great. It's the best decision she made, honestly. She and her husband were going to visit.
He's also a vegan?
A location. They're both vegan, and they wanted to check out this pizza place. And because before they left, they're looking around. Where could we eat? What looks nice? And they find this pizza place, and she's like, "Well, let me call and see if they have a vegan pizza option." So she decides to call, and she calls, and the woman is very rude to her, and essentially says, "I mean, we could not put cheese on it." And so she's explaining to the lady that does, and then so it just went bad. And so she decided to, and this is where it ties into, please don't call Nine Pizza Lounge.
Get it right, Dave. It's Nine Lounge.
Sorry, Nine Lounge. She decides to get on Reddit, on the vegan subreddit, and kind of vent some of this frustration. Rightfully so. I feel like you've just been kind of through something like this. Someone's been rude to you and shitty, and maybe you want to talk about it on a podcast or on a subreddit.
Do not get Reddit involved. Oh God, getting TADPOG involved is bad enough.
So Reddit the vegan subreddit fucking eviscerated this place.
God.
Like review bombed and and so the lady called my sister back.
Oh no.
So now she's griping at my sister because her reviews are going to dog shit. And my sister's really nice, and she like feels bad about it. And she was talking to me about it, and I was just kind of like, well, I mean, she was rude, and I'm not saying that like what the vegan subreddit is necessarily right, but hey, it's not like you told him to do it. It's
Right.
not like
Why call your sister back and gripe? Call your sister back and apologize. And then your sister would, hey, update. They called me back. They apologized. They did this. Everything's good now.
No, she just doubled down. The lady just doubled down.
So many people
and
do
dug
that.
her heels in,
Man.
made a Reddit account. This was
No.
to
Like-
go on the
No.
vegan subreddit.
Amy's Bakery style. Just fucking dive in there.
I mean,
No.
it was like, and I read the post, and it was like, obviously, to borrow a term from the Utes, total cringe. Because I mean, she was in there obviously knowing nothing about what Reddit is, what a subreddit is, any of this stuff, and she's just spouting off, and people are just like,
Oh my God, she's going off. She's going off in front of a bunch of vegan Reddit white knights.
Here's your shovel. Come on, just dig that
God, it
dig
does
that
not
grave
get-
deeper.
Yeah.
I don't. There's a few situations especially on Reddit, that qualify as worse than that.
Oh, it
worse
was-
ideas than that.
I mean, it blew up. I was surprised because, like, by the time she even told me about it, I was like, well, I mean, like, what's the like how many upvotes it's got? And I mean, I can't remember exactly, but it was enough for me to go, holy shit. I mean, we're like multiple thousands. Like that's
wow.
like, yeah. I mean, it blew.
that made the front
fuck
page.
up.
I bet that made the front page.
I don't know, but she felt not great about it. It was like it turned into like a real stressful couple days for her.
I don't know. For that lady to do what she did, it's just like when someone tells you the kind of person they are, listen to them and don't feel bad about it. She could have fixed that situation.
Oh
She
yeah.
didn't.
Oh no, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I told my sister too. Because I mean, it's just like that's just the worst customer service
Yep.
possible.
Yeah,
To
it
just
is.
like be rude to a potential customer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially saying, you know what, your sale doesn't matter.
It's the wrong thing to do when you're trying to get people
Yeah.
to spend money with
Nope,
you.
she could have turned that back around. I mean, because if she kept your sister's number, then she could have made she could have made a post and went on and said, "Hey, I didn't understand veganism. Now I do." Completely could have turned it around completely.
Instead of doing that, she also messaged my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, to complain about his wife, my sister.
That'll work.
Like, I mean, it was just like this woman was,
I hear you. I'm divorcing her. We're done.
you know what? This is making a lot of sense, lady, from Pizza Place in another town.
What are you doing tomorrow, pizza lady? Let's go eat meat.
So like I was curious, like what kind of place? Because now my I'm desperately trying to dampen the fucking internet troll that lived in me fucking 20
Yeah, I know.
I'm really trying
I know
to like
that too. I
you know
know
like
that
that,
Poisoning your crease right now.
well, you know, like in
Waiting
Pulp
for it.
Fiction, where he's like, I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd right now. And it was like one of those moments because I'm like, fuck it, going to Facebook. Let's look everything up about this business. And it's like, the reviews are like, obviously, all the good reviews are
At the bottom.
paid reviews.
Oh.
They're obviously paid reviews. And then the bad reviews are things like, was told to go back to where I came from.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like I mean, like real fucking
All right,
like.
they earned that.
Yeah.
They earned that bad rap. And again, don't harass the pizza place. Just leave them alone.
Yeah, again, this
they
is not the
took
place
care
that
of it.
Ian was
This
talking
pizza
about.
place doesn't sell things
Yes.
in amounts of 16 ounces, correct? Not that place.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. What?
It doesn't sell things by 16-ounce quantities.
No,
Okay.
no. And I made very.
Because I also don't go into that place anymore since I've seen their Trump and Elvis decoration they all love. So it's been a minute since I've been
yeah.
there either.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
stopped going there too for that for the Trump reason.
Not me.
Mostly, I
Not
stopped
me.
going there because it's too expensive.
Yeah, it is a little expensive.
So hey,
Hey, I'm on
Joe,
this
what's up,
podcast
buddy?
too.
No, you're not. Not according to the last 30
I'm
minutes.
the
you're
live
not.
studio audience.
Which I feel really bad, especially because you told me earlier that you typically don't listen to the episodes that you're on.
That is true. I don't like the sound of my own voice.
So, like, the only benefit that you're getting from being here is not happening.
I just get to
so
listen
sorry.
to the episode 3 days in advance. I'm cool with this. And some
You just listen
Some
to the first
audience
30 minutes. It's
participation.
fine. What's a bad restaurant story you have for us? Come on, let's keep this train going.
well, kind of piggybacking on Dave's story, I once worked at a pizza restaurant in Junction City, Oregon, where I totally burned a calzone and then covered it with sauce and sent it out the door because those things take like 40 minutes to make, and it was near closing time. So I understand how that person may have made that decision, and then when my boss got the inevitable call back and asked, "Hey, did you send a burned calzone out the door?" I was just like, "No, I thought it was fine. Like, they said it was really burnt. Did you try to cover it up with sauce?" I'm like, "No, I thought it was fine. I mean, I can remake it again."
Did they ask for a light baked calzone?
I don't think she bought it, but she didn't push back on it. So,
But there's also a difference between you being an employee there versus like the owner
Yeah.
of the restaurant, right? I mean, I feel like if you're the owner of a
Totally.
restaurant, you need to be you're the last.
It's your livelihood.
You're the
Yeah,
buck stops
you're
here. It's
responsible.
like you gotta
Yeah,
yeah.
it's your
what is
dollar,
the
you're
common
responsible.
denominator in
So,
those
yeah.
two stories is that the people refuse to admit they're wrong. It's like it's this absolute like unbreakable, unstoppable like feeling of like I can't admit fault, or else that is somehow a strike against me as a person. So this person's in the wrong. I've got to fight back against them. Yeah, I don't know. It's
It's their pizza
You
honor.
have challenged my pizza honor. How dare you, sir?
Pistols at dawn. When I was fixing iPhones, I ran into a lot of stuff like that where people would complain or they would whatever. And there was
Sir,
some
this iPhone's burnt.
there's too much sauce on this iPhone. I don't know why they kept complaining about the sauce I would put on their iPhone. It was exactly the right
Sir,
amount.
that's how the oven is designed to cook your iPhone.
You got to order a light repair.
I would have people complain sometimes, and sometimes their complaints were valid. Like I would install a screen, and then the next day it would just cut out. And sometimes those screens were bad, and I would be like, "Okay, cool," and I'd replace it. And other
Right.
times you could tell. Like,
What'd you do to it?
I
Yeah.
even
You
had
tapped it wrong.
I even had people bring me other phones, like broken phones that weren't the one I
Wasn't
had
the original
repaired.
phone? Yeah.
And it would be like a different model. Like this isn't the phone I fixed yesterday. I actually took pictures of the phones when I fixed them so I could
Have
say
some
it's
proof.
working when
Yeah.
it goes out the door type of thing. And just stuff like that I would obviously argue, but when they said, well, I broke my phone, I didn't do anything, I just broke it. And I can look and see if it looks like it's been smashed with a hammer. That's clearly not a flaw with the design of the screen,
Right.
But if it had just a little chip or a crack at the bottom, I would generally do that because that might have been my bad and I just didn't catch it on the way out. But I was always at least willing to compromise in some way and not like immediately again gaslight them and to say no,
Right.
it wasn't like that. This is the way we do it. You should have ordered a light repair. You should,
This pizza is burnt, sir. This is a hamburger.
if you're the guy. You ordered chicken strips.
Have you guys ever had to? Sorry, to interrupt someone there, but I am curious. I am in the
No,
middle
go
of
ahead.
reflooring or the beginning of reflooring our house, and I'm curious if you guys have ever had to go through that process before.
No, but I need
Okay.
to.
No, but I have done it, but not for myself, and I need to do it too. All
the
over
next-
place.
I've laid laminate flooring, and that's it.
I am deathly afraid of doing any part of this other than just coordinating with the people who will do the job.
Yeah, I think that's the best route. Is just, just
and I've asked a couple of, I've gone onto social media and I've asked folks, and there's always a certain percentage of folks that are just like, it's easy, just lay it down yourself. I mean, that is not an option. I don't want to do it. I don't
exactly.
I want to have someone who knows what they're doing do it. I don't care how easy it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way to go. Just don't let them.
Well, I don't know how to do that, but the people we are working with seem like they're good folks, and we've been working with them for the past couple weeks now. We had to take a 2 or 3 week break while we had COVID, and that was fine, by the way. No big deal there. But yeah, we've been been just kind of very slowly going through the introductory steps towards reflooring our house. So
bring it.
When we do Bob Vila's flooring simulator for the SNES.
It's a real game. It's a real game. It's a Super Scope game, though.
You shoot the tiles into place.
You got one phase is a grout gun where you spray grout and you can't miss any of the spots, and then you have to fling the tiles into place.
I had a friend who worked with Bob Vila like 20 years ago, and man, he would talk about how big of a dick he is, like constantly. Anytime he got the chance,
on Reddit too.
Anytime he got the chance to talk about how Bob Vila is a dick, he was on it. His name came up, anything, and like talk about tools, anything. He's just like, you know who's a dick? Bob Vila.
My pizza is burnt. You know who's a dick? Bob Vila.
Come on, suck my dick. You know.
You know who never would do that?
Not once did Bob Vila offer to suck my dick.
I would have taken him up on it many times, but he never once offered.
So my audio,
Dave,
just cut out for.
Oh, go. I'm sorry, Phil.
You're good. We were just talking about Bob Vila sucking dick. That's all. You just missed some of that.
Now you have to listen to the episode.
Are you back? Are you good? I don't think we are. I think we lost Phil. Phil.
Check Discord. Maybe we've dropped him. He says he's still here. Where are you, Phil?
He's typing.
I can't hear you typing.
Oh, I heard a.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
All right.
Welcome back.
This will be great.
Leaving all that in.
I can hear. I can go back and re-listen to this, and there'll be parts that are fresh to me.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. Actually,
that is true. Yeah, and it's all staying in, so the chaos will live forever. Did you guys know that like a whole bunch of fucking planets aligned on Friday, along with like the moon and like all this stuff like lined up? And the next time that happens, I'm staying the fuck home and I'm staying in bed. It was like I would say the worst day, because like nothing like horrible happened, like nothing like absolutely terrible happened, but it was one of those days where it was like, it started off with Henry leaving for summer school, which that's also weird. When he says summer school, I'm always like, because to me, like growing up, summer school was like a thing you didn't want to go to. It was a bad. It
was for makeup.
It was
bad thing. But essentially now it's just like it's just school. it's just in the summer, and it's great because my wife and I both work. So, and he likes it. Like he's like doing all these like all these math things that are like a little more advanced, and it's like anyway. So he left for summer school, throwing a fit. So it's like great. This is like perfect way to start the day. Clementine, our dog, gets out. And so she's running around the neighborhood when I need to leave for work. So part of me is like, maybe I'll just...
Hope she's here when I get back.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, Nikki even said she'll probably... Because like I was getting ready when she ran out. And she's like, she'll probably be back at the door by the time you're ready. And I'm like, no, she has never done that. Like she's just gonna like run around. So by the time I get ready and I head out the door to find her, my neighbor across the street is like, "Hey, I saw your dog in our yard," and he is like not the neighbor you want to tell you that he saw your dog in his yard. He's the neighbor who, like, when I first moved in, there was a kid who was ringing doorbells in our neighborhood and then ditching. And I was talking to my next door neighbor about it because it had happened to him. And then the guy from across the street comes over and says, "You know, if someone did that to me, I'd shoot them."
Nice.
To which I was like, "All right, communications are cut."
Thank you for telling me who you are. I appreciate it.
So like now I'm like, I got to find this fucking dog.
Right.
I cannot leave for work.
Saw your dog. I set some bear traps. I'll get her.
He did say I'll catch her if I see her, and I'm thinking, fuck. Now I have to
Gotta
find
find
the
her.
dog. So I did. I find her, and she's like, of course she doesn't want to come home, and she's like wet from like running through ditches and burning through witches, and like so I'm like, so I see her, and she sees me. And she starts to leave. And I'm like, wait. I'm like, stay. And then like I'm pleading with her, stay. And then she kind of like cowers down. I'm like, you're not in trouble. I just need to get you home. So like she's wet and I'm in my work clothes. So like I have to do this because like I can't just trust her to be like, go home. Because she's not going to. So I pick her up. And I carry her, and she's like not a super heavy dog, but she's heavy enough that by the time I got back home, my watch was like, "Hey, good job working out for 3 minutes."
Sweating off because it's been so hot and humid.
So I set her down, let the neighbor know, "Hey, it's good. You don't have to worry about shooting my dog." And I get in the car and I leave for work.
I can take one of those legs off for you. She won't do that again.
Right? Yeah. We'll just grind that down. Where I do all my work in my tool shed at 2 a.m. Neighborhood's trying to sleep. It's all good. I can work her in.
I have those neighbors too.
So I'm not late for work, but I don't have time to change or anything like that. So it's just like, well, fuck, this will be fine. It'll dry off. It'll all be good. I get to work. Work's fine. It's just a regular day. But then about like 11 o'clock, and this has been happening to me recently. So this has been happening to me so recently that I've scheduled a doctor's appointment for Tuesday to look into this. I've been seeing auras, and not like the cool like divination kind of seeing auras.
Not like Dane's mom.
Right. It's the very distracting. I can't see through this shape in my vision kind of thing.
Ooh.
And like on Friday, it started out as this like sphere, just like right in the middle of my vision. And it was like, oh boy, here we go. And it is like this scintillating pattern. It is like this rainbow. It's like looking through a prism / kaleidoscope. And I can see through it, but it's like, man, it's really hard to like read stuff through it and all that. And like when I close my eyes, it's still there. When I open, it doesn't matter which eye I leave open or closed, it's there. It's kind of like an eye floaty, but instead of it like floating around, it just fucking stays in a spot.
Can I ask you a quick question about this?
Sure.
When that goes away, it goes away on its own.
Eventually. What happened on Friday was it slow over the course of an hour morphed from a sphere to like a crescent moon shape. And then the crescent moon just gets farther and farther in my peripheral vision, and then what really sucks is when it gets to the edge of my vision, and like my whole like side of my like vision just flickers like a film or something going through a reel, and it's just like.
Do you get a headache afterwards?
Yeah.
That's an ocular migraine.
That's
what I talked about this on the show before, so that's probably what it is.
That's what I've heard before as well. But the problem is, like, I used to get these once a year. Mm-hmm. I've had one of these 3 times in the past week. So
I've found when I haven't had one in a while, knock wood, but I found when I was getting them, it was fairly regular, and then they stopped happening. But your eye doctor should be able to, or a doctor.
Yeah, I'm going to my doctor. I need my annual physical anyway.
Yeah,
I'm like 3 years late on that.
I'm getting that tomorrow morning.
Well, this will be a freebie then. Your annual wellness visit.
That's right. That's right.
But
So
usually what he told me to do to get rid of it is to close your eyes for 3 straight minutes.
oh,
Just keep them closed.
Okay.
Do not open them
okay.
for like 3 minutes, and that usually worked for me.
Okay.
So if that happens, give it a shot. See
I
if
will.
That helps, but you'll still get the
It's
headache.
like turning it off and turning it on again, kind of deal. I like that.
You'll still get the headache, but the thing should go away at least for the moment.
I will definitely try that next time it happens. I'm not looking forward to it, but yeah, sometimes the headache's not as bad that follows, but sometimes it's really
The
bad.
headache I would get after the ones I was having was just south of a migraine. It was bad, but it would usually be fairly brief, and then it would be fine.
No pass.
Yeah.
So that happened, and I'm like, fuck this, man. This day has sucked so far. I send Nikki a text. I'm like, hey, I know it's expensive, but I want to get New Asia tonight. New Asia is a restaurant here in town. It's a Chinese restaurant. And it is expensive for what it is. It's wild. We eat there for like $50 fucking dollars, and it's like, this is not $50 worth of food, but I mean, what are you gonna do? I want it, you know.
Yep.
So we're gonna every now and then we do it. So man, so she says, yeah, that sounds great. So I'm thinking about, I'm going to get I love their lo mein noodles. Their lo mein noodles are really good. Chicken lo mein, especially like when I drink a beer with it. Man, that like the pairing with those two is like, I mean, it's perfect. So I'm like, fuck yes. We're going to do this. It's going to be great. After work, we get the noodles, we get all our food, we get home, we get set up. We're eating. I'm eating the egg rolls, dipping them in the hot mustard, loving it. Eating the wonton soup, loving it. It's like fine, great. Now it's time to eat the noodles. Open them up. Oh, they smell so good. They look so good. I eat a couple bites. Oh, this is so good. And then a bug lands in the noodles, and I'm like, ah! And I try to get it out to save it, and just buries itself in the noodles.
Oh.
And I set it down, and I'm like, I'm not the kind of person that can. There are some people, like my dad, would just be like, protein. And I get that.
I would dump it on a plate, find it, and then throw it out. And then just keep going.
yeah. But this thing was like, I mean, it was, it would have been hard to find it. I'll put it that way. And look, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being the kind of person who'd be like, fuck it, protein. That seems like a very practical way to live. It is also not how I live.
No.
So that was just game over for me. So it's like, all right, I'll set that down. And then Nikki was very nice, and she's like, let me go. Do you want like a cheeseburger or something, champ? And I'm like, yeah. So she got me a cheeseburger, and so I'm like, that'll be great.
If
like,
you could immediately grab the bug and thrown it out, you would have.
Right.
Proceeded.
Oh yeah. Totally would have.
But when it burrowed, when it got all salsified,
Yeah. The moment where it was
your noodles became its house.
right. Yes. Right. That is a really good way. But yeah, if I would have caught it like on the top, totally, I would have removed like the epidural of the noodles.
So if you were George, you would have eaten the donut on the top of the trash.
No, but here's my only reasoning why. If it were me alone, absolutely. But he's in someone else's house.
Oh,
They're there.
Fair
it's
point.
like, come on, no, you don't do that. If it's my house and my trash and nobody's home, and I know where that donut came from, maybe, maybe, but never in someone else's house. Like that is just like, what are you doing? So then I'm like, okay, I had a D&D game that night. So it's like, let's fucking go. Let's do this. I love this game. I said D&D game, but it's a Forbidden Lands game, which is like this cool like hex crawl exploration game where it's like as you crawl the map, the setting is kind of revealed to you through lore, and it's like that's really neat. I really like lore when it feels like it's thought out and it's cohesive and it like serves a purpose as opposed to it just being there, you know. Because a lot of times in games, I feel like they're like, "Fuck, we need some lore so we can make people feel like this matters." You know, that's the kind of lore that I don't like.
Yeah.
And so my characters totally fucking died, and it was just like
spectacularly
died in this like series of events where it's like. I needed to make a dodge roll against this fucking zombie. It's a fucking zombie. I need to make a dodge roll against it, fail that, and it's like, okay, in this game, there's a mechanic where you can push, where it's like you can make a second roll, but bad things could happen from getting fails on that roll. And I failed that roll, the second roll, the push roll. So it's like, fuck. So what that means is that I'm dealt damage, and it's enough damage that it's what's referred to as a critical wound. So it's like, okay, great. So we go to the critical wound table, and it's like, okay, roll 2d6s to determine what your critical wound is. You want to roll low. It's like, okay, roll 2d6s, roll the 12. So that's a 6 and a 6. Consult the chart. Oh, decapitation.
So the zombie ripped your head off?
Yeah, the way we played it was essentially like tore my throat out, you know. I mean, it was fine. You know, it's never fun when like a character dies or anything, but I mean, it was definitely worse to have to lose my noodles, you know. But still, I mean, you know, I've kind of reached a point, I guess, in maybe gaming maturity where it's just like, even like with Lim, where it was just like, well, I mean, that happened. I don't feel bad about the decisions I made. So what's it matter? And that's the same with this character, this half-elf druid who died in Forbidden Lands. It's like, well, I tried to dodge, it failed. I tried to dodge again, it failed. And due to bad luck, he's dead. None of that's my fault. Right. So, sure. I mean, it just happened. I mean,
when I message you, tell you about Lim, like, I'm glad it happened because there's a story thing that I had crafted and set aside. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get to that. We'll figure it out as we go. Had no idea how to get there. Now I know how to get there, so I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. It's also kind of fun where it's like, I've also kind of reached a point where, like, in this game, I'm excited to play a new character. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, I liked that character, but he's dead now. So I want to play a different character and like build that character.
Play the zombie with his memories.
Right. Yeah. That's how zombies work in this game. We find out. All the necromancers just lack memories, so they need to harvest them. So, yeah, the next time the planets all decide to align, I can fuck right off.
I think that's not for another, 160 years.
Good.
So I think you're good.
Good. I'll be good and dead by then.
Maybe. We don't know.
And then I also joined the Video Game Sage forums, which are really cool. I really urge anybody out there to check them out. I heard about it on another podcast, Drunk Friend, which is like SNES Drunks and Travis's podcast, and Nest Friend. And I was listening to that, and they've mentioned it a couple times, so I finally decided to check it out. It is really cool. There's like this weekly NES competition where it's like a game is decided, and then you need to meet a certain condition, where like this week it was Galaxy 5000, which was like an NES game I had never heard of. So it's also neat because it's like a way of discovering like games that I've totally missed. It was an Activision racing game, like in the style of RC Pro-Am, and it's just a high score challenge. And I thought that was really neat. And they've got like these, like every year it's like the community tries to beat all the Game Boy games, like all the games for like a system. So that's pretty cool too. Cause it I like playing retro games, but it gives this like extra layer of like a reason to do it beyond just like, cause I'm the kind of person that I like doing this stuff, but when there's something extra attached to it, when there's extra meaning to it, it heightens it, you know? And then it's just a balance of like making sure that it's not work, you know? It's like, no, just make sure I enjoy this, and I'm not doing it just to work. But it's very cool. I'm Johnny Nunchucks on there, so if anybody decides to join that forum, look me up. It'd be cool to have more TADPOG people on there.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So one, I've got two things. One, I just want to bitch about lasagna real quick.
Please.
Fuck lasagna.
We've you like politically or
This is my experience today with lasagna. because I watched a random video and I was about making lasagna. And I was like, I know Melissa and the girls have never had a really good lasagna. They hate ricotta, and like I'm not a big fan. I've gotten to like it a little bit more over the years, but I don't care for it.
No real Garfield in your house.
Right. And I like the cottage cheese version. Okay, there's no way they're going to do that. So I was like, well, how about I make them an authentic, like, bechamel, mozzarella, meat lasagna. So I watched a bunch of videos. I wanted to do it from scratch. I wanted to make noodles, but I don't have... I'm going to get a pasta machine for my birthday, but I don't have it yet. So I was like, well, I'll just buy the box noodles and I'll make everything else from scratch. So I did. I got up, I sauteed a sofrito and caramelized like tomato paste and made like the whole 9-yard sauce. I made
Bug landed
bechamel.
Threw it away.
I mean, it took hours. Everything got together because I bought whole vegetables that I broke down and diced up and did the whole shebang.
Sounds awesome.
Everything's coming together, so I've got to do the noodles. So I just went. I didn't want to drive all the way to Walmart. I went to our local food giant, got what looked like a good box of noodles, made them, and of course, like, have them going like 9 minutes, have the water on, salted it down, everything. So when I grabbed it, drained out the water, it looked like I had just a pot of ribbons. Like it absolutely just shredded itself. No clue. Like I got out, salvaged what I can, built like a layer and a half, and it was like I pulled out 10 planks. It should have been enough. I got less than half. So I was like, fuck. So I went and got the rest of the box. Same thing. At this point, like we're about to record, I'm trying I just want to get lasagna in the oven so they'll have something to eat because it's taking me way longer than I thought it would.
Yeah.
And then when I make the noodles again, same thing happens, just shreds. I find one whole noodle that is cooked, and whenever I pull it out, I can see just natural like striations in it. So when I pick it up, it falls into 4 pieces. So never buy whatever Ronco brand lasagna noodles. Fuck all that noise.
Ronco?
I was so mad. I was so pissed. Like time and money for no reason today. Absolutely nothing.
Ronco lasagna noodles sounds like something I'd be guessing the price of on Price is Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So fucking that's my gripe about
That
my lasagna
sucks,
today.
man. I'm sorry to hear that.
Like,
'Cause you
that's
put a
like
lot of work in
3
on the
hours
front end.
for nothing, and it's not going to be as good tomorrow. The noodles going to be a little dried out in the fridge. Like I'm just fucking pissed.
Oh, that's the best time to eat lasagna is the day after.
The day after. Well, it's not even baked; it's still raw. So I'm not
I
happy.
gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not happy with it.
That's like chili the next day.
Yeah,
and-
chili's better the next day,
Oh, man.
yeah.
So good.
That water evaporates out of it, gets nice and thick.
Yeah. Shepherd's pie also like the next day.
So the other thing that I wanted to do. So
Yeah.
Melissa and I were laying in bed last night looking at TikToks, and a fun psychology test pops up. And we took it together, and it was really interesting.
Okay.
It's not like a diagnosis tool. It's just a fun little psychology thing. And I was like, I want to do this with everybody tomorrow.
Okay.
So if everybody wants to, here, let me. Phil, do you have paper and pencil handy?
Yes. Give me half a moment.
Does the quiz end with what psychological disorder do you think you have?
Did you ask for a light bake?
A pizza person. I like a pizza psychology quiz.
All right. So for this test, it's 12 questions.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'll say the scenario or what's going on, and it's just whatever pops into your mind. So just kind of try to take a mental snapshot of
I can do this right now.
how your imagination just fills in the question.
Okay.
And then remember that, and that's what the questions will be about.
Is it a Mad Lib at the
Mad
end?
Lib.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through bits and pieces of it.
Okay.
Okay, so the first part. You're in a forest, and there is a winding road full of trees. Okay, so put that, whatever image that conjured in your head.
Okay.
So first thing to write down, are the trees organized? Like in a pattern, or are they just all over the place?
Okay.
Is it night or is it day?
What if it changed?
Put it down. So the path in the trees. Is the path wide or is it narrow? Is it well trodden or barely used? So you are walking down the path, following it down, and you see a key laying on the side of the road.
Okay.
Is it big or is it small?
Okay.
Is it old or is it new? What does the key unlock? As you're traveling, do you pick up the key or do you leave it there? So you continue walking down the path.
Okay.
And as you come around a turn, you see a bear.
Okay.
Just a bear in the woods.
All right. Is it shitting?
Is it?
Do I have my shotgun? Oh wait,
No.
wrong podcast.
Is the bear menacing or is it friendly? Does the bear scare you? And then how big is the bear? So after a minute, the bear wanders back into the woods.
Okay.
And you keep traveling down the path. So as you keep walking, again, you see on the side of the road, there is some type of urn sitting on the side of the road.
Okay.
So the urn, describe it. What is it made of? And then what's inside the urn when you get close enough?
Pet food. Oh, are we supposed to keep this?
So you continue walking. After you see the urn, you keep walking past it.
Okay.
And eventually you walk and see a house.
Okay.
Just a house slightly off the path in the woods.
Okay.
What kind of house is it? Is it big or is it small?
Okay.
So as you keep walking down the path, you get close to the house. When you get right up on it, you can hear a man screaming from inside the house, screaming to be let out. He sounds borderline crazy. Do you open the door for the man or do you keep going?
Okay.
Once whatever that is that happens, everything suddenly goes white. You are in a white void after that. Everything you see is all white as far as you can go. Nothing changes. So once you're in the void, do you stop and stay exactly where you are, hoping maybe you'll get help? Or do you keep walking and exploring and hope something will change and hope you can get out?
That one's a lot because it's like, okay, I'll just write down what I think.
Well, I'll tell you where
I feel
we're
like that's
not.
what you've asked me to do.
The universe.
What, Phil?
Oh, I'm remembering the Futurama episode where they all get sucked into nothingness.
Anybody want to
I'm a
play
level
D&D?
4 vice president. Okay. So that is the conclusion of the test.
Okay.
So first question.
All right.
If the trees were organized or sort of point around, this tells you if you crave structure in your life or you are less concerned with those sort of things and the presentation of things in general.
Okay.
How did everybody answer?
That checks so far.
I put organized.
Organized?
I put all over, but
Same.
I disagree with the quiz because it's like it's woods. I don't know. Like when I think of woods, I don't think of like golf courses where like things are nice and orderly. So my brain was just like, well, it's the woods. And it literally says there are trees on the road, so on the path. So it's like, that's probably all over then.
I saw it as like almost like a pre-made path where trees had been planted.
Sure.
But, there could be woods, but the trees I'm seeing in my head are straight down the line.
Sure. And I'm not saying that's wrong.
Yeah, no.
I'm just, I don't know. I don't know. I always, like with stuff like this, I'm all, because I don't really think I crave disorder. Maybe I do.
Well, maybe you don't crave disorder. It's just things being super organized aren't very important to you.
Yeah.
Because like when Melissa and I took this last night, she saw everything in an organized pattern, and mine had no pattern to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Phil, what about you?
Yeah, I picture like a logging road through a forest. So a forest is going to be naturally disorganized, and that actually checks out. I'm a very disorganized person. So 1 for 1 so far.
So number 2, day or night?
Day.
This is symbolic of your childhood and your perception of it.
Night.
Interesting.
So if it were lighter outside, then maybe you have more fond memories. If it's darker outside, not necessarily that you had a bad childhood, but when you look back on it, the first things you go to aren't always the pleasant things.
Okay, 2 for
Well,
2.
I picked night.
Phil, what did you pick?
I picked day, and I feel that that's generally a accurate description. If I were to look back
Yeah.
at my childhood, it would be in positive terms.
I look back at my childhood in positive terms too, but I do tend to, I think that's probably not far off, that I do tend to think about some of the times that weren't so great. I go back to those faster probably.
Yeah.
I have to work a little harder to think of to get to the good stuff. So that's probably right.
Dave, I think yours is interesting because I know you were basically an only child for a lot of your childhood, and then everything changed dramatically.
Yeah, and maybe that's why. That's weird that you say that. I didn't even think about that because, like, it was really weird because when you first said to imagine the path with the trees, without you even asking, because my brain's trying to paint a picture of it. You know, it's trying to fill in the blanks that you haven't even asked yet.
Yeah,
me
yeah.
too.
And at first it was like, first it was night. And then when you asked what time, like, is it night or day? It was day. So like, that's why I was like, what if it changed? Because it did. It was night at first and then it was day.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I don't know. I mean, with you talking about, you know, my sister being born and all that, I don't know if that has, you know, something to do with
Yeah.
that. I mean, I don't know.
Because for me, it was night, which I had a great childhood, but I do think of some bad things,
Sure.
you know, with my dad, like and my grandpa and things like that. That's what kind of comes to mind when someone says childhood to me.
Yeah.
And then Melissa had daylight because Melissa, you know, she had she loved her childhood.
I think it's tough to get perspective too, like as a child, because it's like, you know, I think about some of those things that I thought were bad, and they were. I mean, they weren't good, but some of those bad memories, it's kind of like, man, I didn't have any perspective. I have more perspective now than I used to, and it's like now I kind of realize that that kind of sucked, but it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like the worst. It was like a bug burying itself in my noodles.
Right.
It wasn't like, you
Worst
know,
thing ever,
someone
but-
dying or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, yeah.
So the path represents the path of life that you are on. So if the path is wide, there's a lot of certainty and room and confidence where you are. But if you're on a narrow path, a lot of uncertainty. And then the state of the path, whether it's well trodden or barely used, is your amount of hesitation and basically confidence that you're doing the things that you need to be doing.
Barely used being you feel like you're not, or you feel like you are.
You feel like I would say, because if it's well trodden, a lot of people who have done it before, so you're good. If not a lot of people have used it, then you're striving, you're doing stuff on your own new path. So there's a lot of hesitation to it because you're doing something new.
My path was narrow and well trodden.
Mine was narrow and barely used.
Yeah.
Mine was wide.
Mine was also narrow and well trodden, and Melissa's was wide and well trodden.
Yeah.
Phil?
Same with mine. Wide and well trodden. Because it's a logging path, so it's going to be big enough for a vehicle. So it's going to be
Right.
Yeah.
very big. And actually, that
Yeah.
checks very well, both of those descriptions. So we're 4 for 4 on my end so far.
Because I'm a contract manager at work, so I get called tomorrow like, oh hey, we lost the contract, like, and then there are other options, there are other things that I always try to hold in contingency. So it makes sense for my path to be narrow, but I also do love what I do. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, I think for me, it's more of the literal. My options are not. I don't have a lot in front of me, at least not that I can see, and that's why I feel the path being narrow is accurate there, and well trodden is. I don't know what that means necessarily, but it's.
you're probably confident in your job.
I'm confident there. I mean, I'm because my path is so narrow. I don't come out of that. I don't break away from that much to a point of being less than confident. I just do what I do because I don't want to. I'm not big on change.
Yeah.
I guess
So the key that you encountered, the key is a dream of yours that you've had at some point in your life. The size of the key was how important that dream was for you, or how practical the dream is. If the key was small, it's a very practical, attainable dream. If it's big, it's bombastic, may or not happen, sort of life goal sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's old or new, would be how this dream came to you. If it's something you've had since you were a kid, or if it's something fairly recent, if it's a more modern key, or if it's an old ass skeleton key.
Mm-hmm.
And then what it unlocks sort of is analogous to the type of dream it may be. So what kind of key did everybody see?
I got a small key that's new, but is unknown what it unlocks.
Okay.
Ah, interesting.
So yeah.
I was just about to make a joke about how I'm sure we all chose door, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could guess at what it unlocks, but I think that tracks because, I've always got these ideas going through my head, about things I'd like to do or things I'd like to try, and, but I never really know how to get to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know kind of what I want to do, and I'm always trying to come up with new ideas, but the unknown is, for me, am I going to have time? Am I going to have the money to do this? Is it going to pan out? Should I just not bother? That kind of thing. So, yeah, unknown is for me.
Big key for me. Old key opens a door.
Okay.
I had a big.
Do you have any idea what that could be about?
I haven't been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah. Okay. That's
I don't know if
fair.
that qualifies as old or
That's
not.
fair. Phil?
I had a big old key as well, kind of like a Ren Fair style of two-toothed old brass key with a ring on the end of it that unlocks manacles.
Ooh.
Manacles.
I don't know how it relates to dreaming, though, because I do not remember my dreams. They're generally, from what I can piece together, are pretty bizarre, and then they flit out of my brain in all of 30 seconds after I wake up.
Well, I took
Dreams
dreams
to mean goals.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
took dreams to mean like
A goal.
like a goal or like.
Okay. In that regard, then I think it's more. So we had worked pretty well towards a goal of me being a homemaker, and that's something that we had talked about for years. So I guess that fits in with the old dream
I remember you talking
Yeah,
about,
sense.
I
about
do
that.
too.
Yeah.
That does track.
of how practical it is. I feel it's fairly practical. It's been a good. We're nearing the 1 year mark on that, and thus far, I think it's been very well. You might have to talk to my wife. My wife to
Your supervisor?
yeah, who may think it's shit.
How does
Is he burning those pizzas again? How's his calzone game?
what's your calzone to sauce ratio, man? What about picking up the key? What was that significant?
Picking up
of?
the key is signifying of how attaining it would impact your life.
Okay.
So if you left it there, maybe you don't want that big upheaval in your life. And if you picked it up, you're ready. You're ready to have that dream fulfilled.
I picked up that
picked
key.
it up.
See, I left mine there whenever I did it. I had a small clock key that I left there.
Free key, man.
So
Gotta pick it up.
Yeah. So I would imagine because I always have several. I have 3 important projects basically going on all the time, and I don't feel like I have time to do any of it. So I imagine that's how it pertains to me. But I left it there.
I picked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I picked that key up.
Me too.
I almost honestly said, like, when the question was, what does it open up? I was really close to legitimately and honestly writing down, like, it opens up a keyhole, like in Super Mario World.
That works. I've always had this thing about keys. For some reason, I got it put in my head by somebody a long time ago. I've never thrown a key away because I was told it was bad luck, and it just stuck
Really?
with me.
Yeah.
And if I saw a key lying on the ground, I would pick it up and put it with my other keys because I would feel like it was bad luck to leave it there.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I got a box of keys.
A box of keys.
I remember for me, I didn't pick it
They're
up
everywhere.
because I didn't know what it. I won't have any use for it. More than likely, it's not my clock. It's going to be useful for, so I'm going to leave it.
Huh. I picked it up because this was a big old key. And it was like,
cool.
and it was cool. Yeah. I mean, totally. Where it's like, it's a big old key. I don't see things like this every day.
Yeah.
If it had been like a key to like a car or something, I probably would have left it because I've been like, oh shit, someone dropped their car key.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what Melissa said. She's like, somebody's going to come looking for it, so I'm not going to pick it up.
Yeah, but a big old key for whatever reason, because it's old. It's like finders keepers.
Phil?
Yeah, it was pretty much the same thing as Dave. I see a big old medieval style key on there. I think that's going to look good with my Ren Fair costume, so I'm going to pick that up, and that's going on my belt.
So then the bear.
The bear.
There.
The bear is your life's problems.
Okay.
So if you see the bear and it's menacing, you're very worried about the problems that are going on in your life.
Okay.
If the bear is friendly, she's just going to work out. Yeah, the problems are there, but it's going to be fine. Things are going to work out.
Uh-huh.
Then, if it scares you, it's again impacted on how much anxiety you have about some of these problems.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, how big the bear is symbolic of how big these problems are.
My bear was friendly, but it scared me
Okay.
because I'm just scared of fucking
I'm just
bears.
scared of bears.
They're going to turn on you. You never know. I saw a video the other day of a guy getting chased by a bear who looked just fine, just perfectly friendly.
Yeah.
He just kept coming up to trees and like watching him and nudging him in the tree, and he'd get closer and closer. Ultimately, the guy sprayed him with bear spray.
Yeah.
Because, you just don't want to
don't
get
know.
friendly
Right.
with a fucking bear.
Yep.
And
So, yes, it would scare me a lot. I would freak if I saw a bear like in the wild.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the other thing. It's like not shit on this quiz. I think it's been very fun, and I'm not saying that it's been off the mark or anything like that. This isn't like a defense mechanism or anything. But like, why couldn't it have asked? You see a turtle? Because like a bear is like bears kill people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what if it's
Yeah.
a thing that like I don't know? It has to be like a neutral thing.
Yeah.
But then again, I guess it's like if it was a turtle, most people would be like, "Oh, sweet, a turtle."
I'm
no,
terrified of that fucking turtle.
Right? Like no, but like, who's gonna be like, very few
I've had a
people.
turtle try to kill me before.
Oh fuck!
Like a bad snapping
Like
turtle.
an alligator snapper.
Oh, fuck yeah. One of those
Did you go for the
dragons.
worm?
One of those dragons.
And you're like, "Ah, shit, it's a tongue."
No. I was driving down the road, and there was a great big-ass, big turtle in the middle of the road. And I didn't want it to get hit. So I pulled over, and I went up to the fucking thing and picked it up. And it had razor-sharp claws and
bud.
a razor-sharp beak, and it tried to fucking kill me.
Well, yeah,
I
you were-
still moved it. I was like halfway to carrying it before the thing, I put him down, and he looked like he was going to turn around and come after my ass, so I got in the car and left. It was stupid of me. But initially, I was not scared of the turtle because I didn't
Right? Obviously,
realize
you
the
weren't
turtle
because you picked it up and you moved it.
I didn't realize it was a killer turtle.
Yeah.
But
Now you know.
if I see a bear, I'm always going to assume the bear is going to kill me.
Yeah, that's weird.
So-
It is weird because even if it was like a snake, like it's weird to me that it depends on the animal. For me, definitely was scared of the bear. This was a big bear.
Mine was medium.
It was menacing, and then I wrote down big bear. Big bear chased me, but that's just because of the great outdoors. It didn't really chase me in my mind. But like if it had been like a snake, it wouldn't have scared me.
Yeah.
Unless it was a big snake.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind
or a
of
rattler.
it's kind of weird. Yeah, or a rattler.
In the comments on that TikTok, a woman was like, by the time you'd asked how big the bear was, the bear had already killed me. So I guess that's bad.
I had a medium-sized bear that was friendly and I was scared of. So, Phil, what about your bear? How was your bear?
So in my mind, I'm picturing that I'm turning the corner of this logging trail, and there is a black bear about 50 yards up the path, just chilling, not really paying any attention to me, not a threat, medium-sized bear. But if I'm on a hike and I come across a bear, regardless of how chill it is, I'm turning right around and going the other way as quickly as possible, while not like making a big ruckus. So yeah, big or medium-sized friendly bear that scares me.
Yeah, I had a medium-sized brown bear that was friendly, and it didn't scare me. I just kept going.
And I still think your description of that stuff
was menacing.
Checks out for what that all means. I feel like I'm 11 for 11 so far in this quiz.
Cool. The urn.
So the urn is symbolic of your connection to your family and like your parents and older, like ancestor-wise. So parents, grandparents, and further back. So what the size of the urn is how important that connection is, or how strong that connection is for you, and the design is also has something to do with the nature of your connection and how you feel. If it's made of newer materials, or if it's older and more simple, or newer and more ornate, and then what's inside of it is how you see your direct connection.
My urn was about waist height.
Okay.
Made of clay. With for some reason I see an Aztec Southwest design on it, but it's empty. Don't know.
Okay. Well, see, I mean, it sounds like, that family is important to you, but maybe if you don't even know what your connection is moving forward.
Yeah, maybe. My dad was always really big on our family history. He even had before like you could get it done on the internet, he had a historian. He paid someone to go back and follow our family line back to the point in the Old West when apparently we were horse thieves. I know that much. Beyond that, I don't. But
shit.
I might have roped one of the Chandlers in Red Dead Redemption.
Maybe. Maybe.
What about you, Dave?
Mine was a big urn. It was a big pewter urn. And inside were ashes. Like, ashes of a deceased person.
I see, like, for those comments, like, nothing and ashes were the most common. I mean, it's an urn.
It makes sense. I mean, you say I don't know. Maybe most people aren't like this, but the moment I heard urn, it was ashes. Like the moment, like the word came out of your mouth, and it was like, oh, that's somebody's ashes.
That was secondary for me. We have 2 urns in my house. They're like little bitty that have relatives' ashes in them, but that didn't immediately occur to me. I thought of a big urn, like a big vase, So, and that's weird because you'd think, like he said, I would have expected to go right to that, but that was not my first thought.
What I actually meant to say was inside the urn was the big scary bear from the previous question.
So how do you feel about your older? I know because you've got family in very different places.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird because I've been thinking about it a lot recently. My grandmother had a stroke recently within the last week. And, obviously that's not good. But something that I've been wrestling with is just I don't really feel connect. Like I felt guilty because I didn't feel as bad as I felt like I should have kind of deal. And so I don't know. It's a hard question to answer. And it's just because I've probably... over the course of 40 years, I've probably seen her, I think, 5 times.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just kind of like...
Understandable.
I know, yeah, and I agree. I do. I think it's understandable, but at the same time, it's also kind of like, ugh, I miss family, But, I mean, yeah, we moved around a lot when I was a kid, and now I live, an 8-hour drive away from, like, nearest immediate family. And so, or I shouldn't say immediate family, but extended family is what I meant. So, yeah, it's a tough... area. We're busy. We have a kid, and it's like we both work, and it's hard.
People deal with things in different ways. I mean, when my mom died, I had so many people tell me that I didn't take it hard enough.
That feels like a shitty thing to say to somebody.
It's like you don't seem like it's bothering you, or you don't seem like you're that upset by it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it's my business.
Obviously.
I know I'm dealing with this in my own head. I don't want to share. I don't want to go to therapy. I understand the concept here. Just leave me alone and don't judge me because of that. You know? So, yeah, it's different for everybody. It doesn't mean I don't care. It just means I have my own feelings about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Phil, what about you?
So I pictured a fairly modern brass urn with handles on each side.
Like a spittoon?
I posted a picture in chat. I'm picturing like one of the urns that Paul Bearer from WWF would carry to the ring. Very shiny, but not particularly ornate. Very plain and golden brass colored. And there are ashes inside because it's an urn, and urns have ashes inside. So
yeah,
that's what Melissa said too.
Yeah.
So are you connected with your family, Phil?
It's interesting. I don't particularly care that much about my family connections. I'm much more interested in maintaining good connections with friends. But I am excited when those opportunities arise, when there's a Thanksgiving or some sort of family get together where I can go out and see some of my cousins and aunts and uncles that I've got good relationships with. I really don't have any sort of bad relationships with any of my family on either my mom or dad's side or stepdad's side. So, yeah, I generally have very good, fond memories and relations with family, but I don't really have any sort of I don't put any sort of weight on our ancestry, on our heritage, on family history. It's not anything that really matters to me, I guess.
I get that. There's an enemy in Chrono Trigger that looks like an urn that spits out enemies.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I saw.
The magic urn.
Yeah.
Right?
So that urn, so that's the first thing that popped in my head, but it was...
Does it spit out acids and alkalines, or
maybe
they may use that same sprite?
Probably for
Man,
several
I have to look.
things.
Yeah.
So that popped into my head, and it sort of turned into then like a very simple, dirty old brass spittoon that was black inside, like not just empty, but black. Could see nothing, which lines up like as I talked about, like my family, like my shitty cousin about COVID and stuff, and talking shit about like me not wanting to be. So I'm never going to that Christmas again. Period.
Right.
And then like there's other things I'm curious about. Like my grandmother was the second youngest on my mom's side. She was the second youngest of 12. So I'm curious about all of those relatives I have, but I have no connection. I don't know who they are. I don't know anything about them. Nothing pretty much to do with my dad's side except for his siblings' kids that are around my age. I've recently gotten to see them more than I have in like the last decade, the last year. But like I have no connection and no caring to any of that. So all that lined up for me. So the house is representative of how you view wealth and prosperity. So like I saw a small log cabin for me. So I can only assume that means don't have huge aspirations of, hitting the grind, getting a ton of money, just kind of content with a worker style log cabin is how I interpret that. But Ian, what about you?
Mine was a fairly big 2-story house, like with siding and stuff. Yeah. Not like a huge house, but big. Like the house I live in now, only with a second floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a small, unpainted wooden house for me. But I think it looked like that because it's in the middle of a forest. Like a lot of this is, kind of inferred from the other things.
Practical stuff.
Yeah. But then again, like you said, in the beginning, you picture like the road, like the path being the way it was. You're thinking of it a different way. You're thinking of it being like, yeah, it's in the woods, but it's like been built up.
Yeah, it's been curated.
When I think of the woods, I think of like Land Between the Lakes. I think of like, there's really nothing nice out here other than the nature. Like,
yeah.
And I like being out there for like a day, and then it's like I'm ready to go to a building.
Yep. Yep. Phil, what about you?
So I pictured the cabin from Evil Dead. a
Nice.
single story wooden, dilapidated, kind of a shack. Although the first Evil Dead movie, they go there as a vacation, and it's somewhat nice on the inside. Not it's livable.
Yeah, it's finished on the inside,
Right.
plumbing and things of that nature.
And I think that checks fairly well. I mean, I definitely prefer a comfortable lifestyle, but material wealth isn't incredibly important to me. I don't need a whole lot to be happy. So that makes sense.
No, I get that. I get that 100%. So the man screaming inside the house.
I know what this has to represent. Trust.
Yep.
I mean, it has to.
Yep. Trust and how willing you are to put yourself on the line for people.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me, again, I didn't let the man. This is one of the things like you were talking about, Dave. Like, I didn't let the man out of the house, but
That surprises me.
it was because it would be more of a danger. It sounds like if he's crazy, it sounds like he'd be more of a danger to himself if he got out. So that's why I didn't let him out.
See,
But
I
in
didn't,
general, I am trusting and talking
Yeah.
to people and open to people.
Yeah.
And
I didn't let him out either, but with the mindset of I need to call for help. I don't want to be the one that lets this guy out and either he hurts somebody else or he hurts me or he
Right.
hurts himself. But I am going to call for help to have someone go check on this guy that's screaming in the house.
yeah.
So I care, but I care about me more in that situation.
Yeah.
So that's why I would do that.
Yeah, I didn't let him out either. And this completely tracks.
Yeah.
Like, this would be like real life if that was like, I'd be in the same boat like as you, Ian, where it's like, I'm going to call somebody about that. But I ain't going to, no, I'm
Yeah.
not,
Let's let professionals
right.
deal
Someone
with
who's been
this.
trained to deal
Yeah.
with this instead of me, some asshole who's just like, you okay in there? Like, no. And maybe I've seen too many horror movies too. But I mean, it's like, you just don't do stuff like that.
I don't really see it as being. I personally don't see it as a trust thing as much as a
self-preservation.
or
Yeah.
safety thing. But
Sure.
I also understand why it would be considered trust. I trust
Yeah.
that this crazy guy is not going to come after. Of course he is. Logically speaking, my mind is saying, I want to help you,
Right.
but I'm not the guy to do it. Just hang in there a little longer, pal.
Don't have
Call
enough
the police.
information.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't have enough
Exactly.
information. And it's like, all of these questions, obviously, we're answering with limited information by design
For
us
a
to,
reason,
for us to
yeah.
fill it in.
Yeah.
But I mean, in a real life situation, I mean, this would be like, we're going to have to have a conversation,
Yeah.
you and I, between this door
Yeah,
before I can actually make a decision.
There is no
on it,
trust
you
until
know?
trust is built.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the root of it
Yeah.
for me, honestly. Yeah.
Well, and I guess I can also say that I feel like it doesn't track 100%, but it tracks a little bit more because being in a leadership role has certainly changed my perspective on trust because
bet.
I have gotten burned trusting a lot of people.
And you have to do it in that role. I mean, you have
And
to.
that's how Casey, we'll be talking about a scenario, and Casey is always the pessimistic other side. It's like, nope, don't fucking do it. Nope. There'll be a knife every fucking time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times he hasn't been wrong.
Yeah.
Like if an employee down their luck, sometimes I've, loaned money and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Or, they need, X, Y, and Z. I give it to them and then they're pictures on Facebook of the opposite, shit like that. I should see shit like that all the time now. So that could be more motivation for me, like to not let the guy out. Where before this job, I probably would have I'll just go in the house and talk to him.
Yeah.
I'll put myself completely in the danger.
Professional trust is like the best kind of trust. That's my favorite kind of trust. Any kind of trust where it's like, yes, but there will be a procedure for this and someone will be held accountable if I get fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my kind of trust where it's like, yep, I'm going to trust you. But I mean, there's got to be some kind of, there has to be some accountability or it's like, or I just don't have anything there for you. Sorry.
Yeah.
I let
Phil?
the crazy man out, which I think it still tracks.
Say again.
You let him out?
I let him out. I think that tracks because I frequently find myself in uncomfortable positions that I wouldn't be in if I would just be a little bit more of an asshole, like with telemarketers or door-to-door folks or homeless folks on the street that strike me up in conversation. And if I would
Got 20 or 30 bucks?
just not address it, then it would be fine. But I feel like there is this obligation, this social obligation, that they are taking the time to speak with me. So I need to reciprocate. In the scenario painted, though, I'm alone in the woods, and there is someone screaming for help to be let out. I am literally the only person that can perform this task, so I am going to do that.
There's a bear out there, though.
There's a bear out there. He's pretty chill.
Trip over that urn when you run out.
That said, though, Tyler, when you said you wouldn't let them out, the immediate picture in my head was you letting them out, and then the crazy person being like, "Hey, give me $20. I know you got $20. I saw you put that in your wallet." So I get it. I get that entirely.
I got this partially used dildo. You want to buy it?
You kinky man? And then the void.
Yeah.
The void is, so if you waited, that is representative of you not liking change and not, wanting to put yourself out there. Life is, what's going to happen is inevitable. Just wait for it to come around to be what's comfortable. And then exploring is you're the kind of person that likes to go out and push yourself and find new challenges. And
I love it because it's I hate this void, but it's comfortable and I'm familiar with it, so I'm going to stay here in the void. It sucks, but I know
walking, which is unusual for me if that's the case, because I do not care for change. I am not the kind of person that just wants to launch out and explore all the time, and I'm thinking in practical terms of, well, just standing here is not going to do any good, so I need to just walk and see what happens. And that's the life's going to happen. It throws it at you, whatever. That's where I'm at. Is like, what have I got to lose? I'm in a void. I might as well try to walk and see what goes on, because either I stay here and something happens, or I walk and something's going to happen too.
And, I mean, I don't necessarily think that's 100% true that you're not, because you did the iPhone repair, and and you're doing the show with us. I mean, all those kinds of things are
that's true.
Are things that you didn't have to do. I don't know. You
made the big change from working in office and putting a line to working at home, and
I'm not trying to discredit what you're saying.
That makes sense. I wasn't really thinking about it in those terms, but that makes sense.
But my view of you is I understand being comfortable, because I'm totally like that too. But I don't think it's all. In my point of view, I don't think it's all like that at all. I think.
All right.
I think you're. I don't know. I see you as a guy that goes out and does cool stuff.
Speaking of me hosting the show, it's almost a year.
Good Lord!
Wow,
July it will be a year.
Good
Holy
Lord!
shit!
Maybe late June. Maybe this may be the year anniversary. Something like that.
Happy anniversary.
I guess.
We give you a raise, but Patreon's kind of in the shitter. So.
Actually, we have to reduce you.
That is true. It is. Slowly, your pay has been slowly reducing. Sorry about that.
I don't do it for the money.
Phil, did you stay in place?
Oh, I kept exploring the void, which again checks out because I don't like change. Any more than I guess the next person is, but when you're comfortable, you want everything to stay exactly how it is, but that's just not realistic. Everything changes. Nothing stays the same, and it's just I feel like it is part of existence that things are constantly in flux and constantly changing, and you just either have to accept that and kind of let the river take you where it's going to go, or you can
to the bear.
Be against that and try and fight it and waste a lot of effort. So I explore the void. I accept that things are going to change and will embrace it.
Life finds a way.
What did you say you did, Dave?
I waited for a little while, and then when nothing happened, I started exploring.
Yeah.
So I honestly felt like that was like it was nice when I first got to the Void because it was like, oh, there's no crazy man in a house here.
No bear.
There's no fucking bear. There's just nice. This is just relaxing. And then it got to a point where it's like, all right, now this is boring. Let's fucking see if there's a way out of this void. Mm-hmm. So that's what I wrote down in less words.
And then I also went exploring. Melissa and I both explored.
Cool.
Well, that's the fun little psychology test I came across.
That was fun.
That was interesting. Well, do you guys want to take a little break and then we'll talk about King of Dragons?
Yeah, let's take a break. We'll talk about King of Dragons and we'll be good to go.
All right, let's talk about some King of Dragons.
We're back. King of Dragons. What do you guys want to know about
of Dragons.
Okay.
It's a game. It's a video game by Capcom, based on an arcade game by Capcom that came out in 1991.
Yep.
Super Nintendo game came out in 1994.
And their year of medieval beat 'em ups?
Yes, it is a fantasy-themed, a belt-scrolling beat 'em up. Yeah.
It's like
where
when
you fight.
It's like when movies do that thing where two movies that originated from the same idea come out differently, like Dante's Peak and Inferno. Or, excuse me, Dante's Peak and Volcano.
And Deep Impact.
Yeah.
Armageddon and Deep Impact and
King of Dragons
Armageddon
and Knights of the
Deep
Round.
Impact, not the Abyss.
Yeah, this and Knights of the Round and Magic Sword was around the same time too. Magic earlier.
Sword was earlier, and Magic Sword was. I never played Magic Sword, but from what I understand, that is like a side scroller. So there's you're missing an axis there. But yeah, it is weird because this game, King of Dragons and Knights of the Round, came out not only in the same year in the arcade, but also released on the Super Nintendo in the same year. So. That feels like a weird choice to me. I don't know how the sales of these games were, but I imagine that they were good enough, at least in the arcade revenue, for them to get the Dungeons and Dragons license later down the road. And I don't know if this is true or not, but the rumor that I've always heard was that Capcom was making these games. They were making these games to get that license. They were going after that license. I don't know if that's true or not, but it makes sense. I mean, especially when you consider the fact that they did, these two games in the same year. Near, I guess, I don't know if I'd say the height, because I think we're probably at a new peak of popularity for D&D now in this era.
Yeah.
But I mean...
With Vecna being, for Stephen Colbert to make a Vecna joke, it's like, okay.
I didn't even know that had happened. Yeah. Yeah, and streaming, we have streaming to thank for that. I feel like that had a lot to do with it. People streaming D&D games and like all that kind of
Stranger Things,
yeah, absolutely,
that
for sure.
Definitely did. Yeah.
So yeah, all those things kind of culminated together, and now I feel like D&D is way more popular than it was when I was a child.
Oh, fuck
well,
yes.
It's just more widely accepted. I think it's always been very popular.
Broke out of the satanic panic.
Yeah, but I think now, from a numbers standpoint, yes, it's very much more popular.
Yeah.
I think it was very popular back in the day. It was just a more subdued crowd, because everybody was trying to think that it was satanic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, to me, it kind of felt like a subculture. Almost, where
sure.
Now I feel like it's mainstream, which I think is great. I do think that's awesome. It's nice to be able to connect with strangers, over like D&D, whether or not they've been playing it for decades or if they've been playing it for a year. It's nice. It's nice to be able to talk to people about it.
What I'm picturing is that D&D and eating ass are really riding the same curves in popularity.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. When you put it that way, yeah, you're right.
Those are two things I do enjoy.
that I do love to talk to strangers about.
You don't talk
Those are two
about them in
things I do with
1990, but in 2015, yeah, resurgence.
So anyway, we're not talking about the Capcom Dungeons and Dragons beat 'em ups. We're talking about one of the precursors to that, King of Dragons, which
Heavily D&D, advanced D&D inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. And character designs. I know, Tyler, when we were playing the game that you pointed out, that the cleric was like cut from the second edition, like Cleric of St. Cuthbert. And like
did the second edition
the fighter
look like the Michelin Man?
Look like he was. They had to pay for that brand.
Michelin was the deity that they prayed to.
Yeah, that's how unpopular it was. Is they had to go to Michelin for funding, and they were like, "Fine, but one of the classes has to look like the Michelin Man."
Fights against the evil Firestone god.
But like the fighter, because there are multiple classes in the game. Cleric, as we mentioned, and fighter, and elf, and dwarf, and wizard.
Okay,
those are the 5 classes.
Because like the D&D, like I started playing, Dave, with you in college.
Third edition,
and what we continue to play now is, dwarf and elf are a race that can be cleric, fighter, wizard, as opposed to what old D&D classes where dwarf and elf were like
it's a race.
Fantasy,
that's their own thing.
Fantasy racism is still racism.
Yeah, yes. Classism and racism are totally different.
I am Jonathan the fighter. I am Teglio, dwarf. That's your profession. I am dwarf. I dwarf for a living.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't really trust this Teglio guy for no particular reason.
I mean, I have a lot of friends that are dwarfs, but this guy I don't trust.
But like the fighter, even like
looks sort of like Warduke, almost reminiscent of Warduke, a D&D villain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brother of Marmaduke.
It is like taken from like the cover of like a D&D book, like the dungeons, the Dungeon Master's Guide. So I mean, all of that like visual information ties into like I feel like they were definitely going for that license. And like also, and we're going to get into the gameplay more later, I'm sure, but it just feels right to talk about now. Dungeons and Dragons the tabletop game used to be a lot more treasure and loot focused than it is currently. Like in original edition, treasure was XP. Like, I mean, it was like, that was the exchange ratio. Like, I mean, as opposed to now where it's like you buy things with money and that money makes you more powerful, but it's not experience points. It's like, it's a separate thing. In this game,
you had a good social interaction. Here's 100 experience points. Good job.
Right. Where it's and that's not what old D&D used to be like. At
this
least
game is like the old style.
It is
where you're scrambling to pick up the gold and the treasure that's fallen because you level up based on the amount of treasure you get.
Right, but not only that, but like
also fighting.
Yeah, enemies that you kill, you get points for that. But yes, it is important that
it up.
You pick up gold. You pick up bags of gold and gems, jewels off the ground.
Occasional mimic.
Sometimes
you get frozen solid.
Right. Some of them are trapped.
Yes,
that's another D&D like standard. So it's like I can respect all of these decisions for sure. But like the gold that you collect directly attributes to how quickly you level. And it was funny because it's like when we were playing, because Tyler, Ian, and I played,
that was a TADPOG first. The 3 of us played a video game together.
Yeah.
That is wild that it is the first time.
The first time the 3 of us have ever played a game together.
3 TADPOG members at the same time, man.
Man, I had 3 hosts at the same time, man.
kind of host that would game with me. That is.
We were playing together, and it's like I'm like grabbing all this loot, and Ian, I think you said at one point you're like, we should probably spread this around, and it was like the fucking middle school D&D player meet fucking treasure goblin was just like, nope, everyone's on their own. Like we're fighting enemies together, but you pick up what you pick up.
I made up for the lack of treasure I was able to, I played an elf in our first game.
And that's tough for treasure.
Holding the back line,
Yeah.
firing arrows and doing damage to keep them busy, but the treasure would fall at the monster's feet or whatever.
Right,
And I couldn't
and
go get it because it
the melees
disappears
are
really,
closer.
really, really fast.
Sure.
But I was able to do so much
It
damage.
disappears really fast because I've picked it up. I get it.
Yeah, but I was able to deal so much damage and take out so many enemies that I got, I would say, a fairly equal amount of XP from that because I wasn't getting, in those scenarios where I wasn't getting killed every 10 seconds because the elf is weak. It's designed for range attack, not melee, obviously. But in those times, I was able to stay with you guys in
Yeah,
level.
I feel like-
we stayed pretty close to each other
Yep.
the whole time.
I feel like it does a really good job of keeping that balance because
Yeah.
every time we played, by the time we got to the end of the game, I felt like we were all within one level
At
of
least,
one another.
at least, not the same. But let's get to that, the rest of that good stuff here in a bit.
Talk about
Tyler,
the
you
box
got
art
some
first?
Questions for us? Yeah,
So the box art
yes.
for King of Dragons.
Yes.
I'll talk a little about the box art because I didn't have
Okay.
a lot to say. It was pretty standard, straightforward. I got some Gauntlet vibes from it. Of course, I got Gauntlet vibes from the whole game. It's just not top down, but the same characters. The wizard, the elf, the
Yep.
fighter. Whatever. And I didn't really. I knew it was a beat 'em up, so I wasn't like led to believe it was a Gauntlet style dungeon crawler type of deal. But,
Yes.
it was cool box art. I thought that it was really interesting and fun to look at, and it definitely would have caught my eye on the shelf.
I think that you saying that you knew it was a beat 'em up, I think is the biggest obstacle that the box designer had, where it's like, how do I make this not look like an RPG? And the answer is you can't.
Nope.
You can't.
You cannot, because it's 1994, and if you put a dragon on a box, it's an
With a
RPG
wizard and an elf and a
Yeah.
fighter.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what can you do? Put them on like a San Francisco street or something? Like that. Like you put it like, I don't know, man. Beat 'em ups, like especially that time. If it's urban, it's a beat 'em up. If it looks dragony, it's an RPG.
They need to put a
Combine
sticker
them.
on it with the bad dudes.
Are
It
you
says bad
tough
dudes
enough
approved.
to fight the King of Dragons?
There we go.
Absolutely.
King of medieval San Francisco. Phil, impressions of the box art?
A couple of them. One, first impression, is the game called King of Dragons or The King of Dragons? Because the box art on my game doesn't have the on it, but everywhere
Right.
else that I've seen has the King of Dragons.
I think when
Right.
the
Yep.
game starts up, I believe it's King of Dragons.
Yeah, I can't remember. I honestly can't remember.
It says the.
It says
Oh, does
the.
it?
Very-
Sorry.
it's very
That's really
tiny
small
up
at the
top.
See,
Because I made fun of the fonts being all different, but the and of are both very small and
Yeah,
big.
it's
They're
like-
the same
okay.
font.
The King of Dragons.
Yes.
I mean, they are emphasizing the most important words. I'll give them that.
The of.
Right.
The second thought, so I actually did a little bit of research into this, and the artist who did the cover art for this is a prolific fantasy artist named Julie Bell, who has done a number of game art, box art, has done DC and Marvel card art, did the Bat Out of Hell 3 album art for
Oh.
Meatloaf,
Nice.
did the poster for the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie. It's a very...
wow.
She,
Yeah, I
she,
know
she
that
does a
one.
very 80s heavy metal style of kind of fantasy, future fantasy art.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the way. I feel like that's the way to go. I mean, I feel like the grittier the better kind of deal, and that's about as gritty as it got while still being marketable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that time frame.
She did the same. She was the same one who did the cover art for Demon's Crest as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, working that Capcom angle, good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for doing our job for us, Phil, because I had no idea.
That's what I'm here for.
Hey, I
man.
didn't know that either. Well, you're a big fan of this game, right, Phil?
This was a huge game for me growing up. Probably my first introduction into a kind of an action RPG system where it is an action game. It is a beat 'em up game, but with RPG elements where you are leveling up, where you are getting new gear, and you are getting gear that actually changes the appearance of the sprite, which was. It's tough to state just how big that was in 1991, where you can pick something up and your sprite visibly changes, and it's not just a static, Dragon Warrior style
huge
sprite. So yeah, that was a huge draw for me, and just the fact that it was it's medieval, it's a 3-player game in the arcades when you see it. Yeah, this was a really, really big formative game for me. It's one that I've clung to for a number of years and still go back to and play. And I find it very replayable. I find that it still holds up for what it is. It's quick. It's fairly easy to get into. There's not a whole lot to it, but it does have some depth of gameplay that makes it replayable for sure.
Yeah, and having the different classes to go through with too, like, really helps with replayability.
Yeah.
Man, you talking about like the character sprite changing as you pick up gear, and that is huge. Because like I know I've mentioned this on the show before. It might have been a while back, but like I still remember that blowing my mind playing Diablo.
Yeah, same.
For the first time, where it's like, whoa, my armor changes. Whoa, like depending on what I equip. Whoa,
And
like,
that's 96.
That was like
that's 5 years after this game comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's wild. No, that's very. I don't know the answer to this question, but like, it begs the question: what's the first game that did that?
Yeah.
Where what you have equipped actually changes how your appearance looks in the game.
I mean, I know it happened for me at some point, but I could not put the fine point onto what it is. I don't know.
The first time I remember seeing it is Final Fantasy IV, just in combat. The kind of sword you would have would change.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, and the weapon would change, like in 6 as well. I remember, depending on how. Yeah,
they're always static appearance,
right?
But in combat, you see the swing of the Atma weapon,
right?
Or
right.
You would see Edge would have two different kind of swords when he was attacking in 4, or depending on what you had.
I'm curious. Historically, I'm curious. Like what is agreed upon as the first game to do that.
Well, let's see. So based on the box art, because I just thought, okay, this is going to be a badass medieval co-op sort of game, which could be an RPG, could be a fighting game even, or could be Gauntlet. That's my expectation of it. I think probably we all kind of had those expectations just looking at the box art.
Yeah, and just to interject briefly, sorry. I feel like it's important for me to say when I said RPG earlier from the art, I didn't specifically mean a JRPG, because a lot of those kind of had like a clean style to them. But like this, the art looks like a computer RPG, like
a dungeon crawler.
Yeah, like a Western.
Eye of the Beholder, or
yeah, totally
adventure type game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I could have seen this being like a Seventh Saga style RPG.
Yeah,
I think the only thing that could make you pause on that is if you're just judging this by the box, by the cover, is Capcom, which is not particularly known for RPGs, except for I think they did Breath of Fire.
Eye of the Beholder.
Did they do Eye of the Beholder too?
Yeah, they did. I'm pretty sure they did the port on the SNES for Eye of the Beholder.
Okay.
And then like you said, Breath of Fire.
Yeah.
But
this could have fit into a lot of Breath of Fire, kind of.
But I mean, you look at
Not
the art for Breath of Fire. I mean, does it match up with the art for King of Dragons? Which, I mean, not disparaging that art, the artist or the art at all. I think it's great, but I mean, it does look like it would be painted on the side of someone's van in the late 80s. I mean, like
really does.
It's that style. I mean, I think that's great. But I don't know. To me, that feels a lot more Western, and I guess based on her name, I assume that she might be a Western artist.
Yeah, she is.
Man, now I'm curious what it looked like in Japan.
There's a good wiki with a lot of information and a lot of artwork from the Japanese release.
I was going to bring that up as well.
I looked through that a lot because it's got the full story of the game, which you don't get from playing it. It's got the character profiles. It's got names of the characters, what I didn't know existed until today.
Yeah, everything on there was a super detailed wiki. Tyler, I'm going to send you that so you'll have it for the
show notes.
A lot of trivia about the game in there too. Like there's a whole section about the differences between the arcade and the SNES port, the things they had to leave out of SNES because of lack of memory or whatever.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Which are not insignificant.
Even the box art. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Phil.
I was saying this. It's not insignificant. Like there are some just kind of style changes, but there are some things that I think actually affect the gameplay. I can't recall exactly what they were, but there was a good list of things that they had to change for the SNES port.
And I was looking at the Japanese box art, and like even that art looks very Western in style, which I mean makes me think that again, it's like they were definitely going for that Western tabletop D&D kind of look.
Yeah, like I'm looking at the art that Ian just posted in our chat, and it is 5 white dudes in being depicted in their garb. It's a very Western. It kind of reminds me of early Dragon Warrior art, even though the Dragon Warrior art itself is very, very like Akira Toriyama. Like it very is evident, but the color palette is very similar to that, I feel.
Makes me ready to play Scott Pilgrim on Thursday.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Before we jump to start dissecting it, so maybe if this game were a movie or a celebrity, who would you compare them to?
Well, I went with the 2020 movie Monster Hunter, which I've never seen, starring Mia Jovovich, simply because it comes to mind because it's based off another Capcom game of the same name featuring someone killing dragons. Watched the trailer. That was enough for me to say, yep, that's pretty much what it sums up for me. Also, it looked kind of good. I might watch it.
Yeah, I never will.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's one of those where it's like if I had cable, sure, probably.
Yeah, eventually.
If it's on TV, I'm eating a sandwich, like I'll pop in and out kind of deal. Yeah. But like, man, when I watch something, it has to be, because it's all streaming for me. Like I have to make a conscious decision to find a thing and press several buttons to make it. Yeah. Like every decision, like, it's like every time I press the button, I have to be like, are we sure I want to commit to 2 hours?
My time is worth so much more than this. I can't be here for this. I'm losing
I'm giving up $50,000.
I wish. That would be great. But let's remember, I saw a small unpainted wooden house in the forest. So, the like Shudder, Ian, I know you because you talked about Shudder a lot, and like the best fucking thing they have on there is they're just streaming things.
I love that.
So we watch so many things that way where it's just like, well, we're going to start in the middle of this movie.
I tell you what.
Oh, it's the best.
I tell you
I always fall asleep. Nikki watches it. I'll ask her the next morning how it was. She says it's great.
Let me clarify for the non-Shudder familiar. When you got Shudder, when you turn it on, there's 3 channels that you can pick from right off the bat. They're just always playing something.
In addition to the movies.
In addition to all the movies you can select from the library, but they've got sort of this live TV thing going on where you can just tune in to whatever the hell they're showing. There's it came from Shudder, a folk and something else collection.
Slasher.
Yeah.
Slashix, that's right. Well, no, wait. I think Slashix might be
that's a category
for movies. What's like the best slashers.
But I think you're right. It's something like anyway.
Yeah, it's in that vein.
But there's whatever's on. Like the other day, or a couple of weeks ago, we finished watching something and we were getting ready to watch Joe Bob Briggs, and Chopping Mall just happened to be on one of those channels, and we're like, let's watch Chopping Mall, and it was nice because it had already started, but who gives it? And we didn't finish it.
It's the best. It is.
If streaming services would all do that, oh my God, I would watch so much more varied shit. You know what I mean?
Totally.
If Netflix had a live kind of, we're just broadcasting this movie for you, pick it up or put it down, we don't care. I would absolutely, that's where it would stay.
I love it. I mean, I really do.
Just like having the TV on.
It is.
It's great.
There's a nostalgia nostalgic feeling about it. So, thank you, Doc. By the way.
Shudder.
I would compare it to Carrie Yules.
Ah.
So Carrie Yules of Robin of Locksley and Men in Tights, looking like the elf.
Abe Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln.
Are you saying, hey, Blinken? Hey, Blinken.
Sorry, I can't hear that movie's title without making that reference.
What was your name before? Shithouse.
It's a good change. And then him in Princess Bride, as the man in black. Just that fantasy feeling, but not like big over the top amazing, but solid B plus, style where I feel like this game fits.
Good job, Wesley. Get some sleep. I'll most likely kill you in the morning.
I chose the 2002 Dead Gentleman production, The Gamers, which is a small movie. It was made, short, small movie made on about $1,000 budget. It is the story of a group of Dungeons and Dragons tabletop players playing their game, cut between them actually playing it in real life. I have really fond memories of this movie because I remember watching it in Tyler and Josh's apartment in Murray with a whole bunch of us crammed into Josh's room. Sean Miller of Benji being fame from the Scott Pilgrim game that you're running. I remember he brought the movie. And that was a time where you had to bring a movie to a place in order to watch it.
Yep.
And I have really fond memories of that. And that's why like anytime I'm playing, and I think I've done it already in the Scott Pilgrim game, but anytime I'm playing a tabletop game with Sean Miller, I always want to make the reference of, well, you look like a trustworthy fellow.
It's the only thing I remember from it.
That's where this line is from that movie, which I think is on YouTube for free if you want to check it out.
I might check that one out.
I don't know how it holds up.
I'm sure it's dated, but I don't care. I like camp.
Yeah.
I like campy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the characters dies, makes a new character. The character just walks up to the party. You look like a trustworthy fellow. Let's go on an adventure.
Right.
Falls in line like nothing ever happened.
Phil?
So before we get to my comparisons, I'm curious. I don't think I've ever heard the name of the lead actor from The Princess Bride. I always pronounce it in my head as Elwes or Elwes.
Me too. Elwes is how I've always pronounced it.
I believe it's Yules. Like I heard it in an interview.
Okay.
That blows my mind. That would
Me
absolutely
too.
blow
I was
my
like,
mind.
it took me a second until you said Men in Tights. I'm like, oh, Carrie Elwes.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave Chappelle.
Have you heard
Oh, Tracy Ullman.
David Sedaris's newest book?
No, I didn't realize he had a new book.
I've been listening to it, and it's so fucking good. And there's a story where this group of women confuse him with Dave
Oh,
Chappelle.
man. Yes, I love this.
He just rolls with it.
Oh, man, I love this so
Oh,
much.
David Sedaris, I'm rich, bitch.
What's the name of the book?
Happy Go Lucky.
Happy Go Lucky. All right, I'm going to, This is going in this is newly on the top of the media pile for me. Yeah. I love his audiobooks.
Oh, it's so good.
Specifically, yeah.
So my media comparisons are the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit trilogies.
Sure.
Because it has a Legolas. This game has a Gimli. It has orcs. It has a wizard. It has a forest infested by giant spiders. Talking trees.
Talking trees.
Yeah.
There's an ancient dragon at the end of the game in a mountain cave on a massive pile of treasure. And there are no female characters to be seen whatsoever. So
Yeah, I have two achievements that are centered around Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So I absolutely get that.
this was, I was a huge Lord of the Rings fan growing up, and, there wasn't any sort of licensed material until the very, very bad Lord of the Rings SNES game, which I'm looking forward to being on sometime in the future. So this was the closest I got to with having a video game Tolkien universe representation, which is another reason why it was such a huge part of my childhood gaming experience.
I will say one thing that this game had that Lord of the Rings didn't was none of the Ents were named Trevor.
What's yours?
Is it Trent? It was
Trent.
Trent.
I think it's Trent Woods.
Trent Woods.
Trent Woods in the game.
The tree. Trent.
The Great Deku Tree that's infested by Skulltulas.
Did they just take tree and ent?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Trent.
That's how they. That's how they named the forest. That just dawned on me. You
Yeah.
knew this. Yeah.
Well, when I looked through that wiki and I was like, what's the name of the tree? Trent?
Oh, that
I was
is
like,
the name
so
of
it
the
must
tree.
be tree ent.
I said,
Okay.
I said
Oh my
Trevor,
God.
but yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
I like Trevor though.
Trevor. I think it should be Trevor.
I like
I'm just
Trevor.
saying.
Yeah. Can Lim come back in your game as an ant named Trevor? He's like a potted plant. A sapling.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
When I hear Trent,
Groot style, baby Groot style.
Yeah.
Trevor.
Also, he's severely mentally ill at this point.
so when I hear Trent, the first thing I think of is Daria and Trent from Daria, and then the second thing I think the Adventure Zone had a tree ant named Trent as well. So those are kind of the two things that come to mind. And it's the anachronisms that occasionally pop up on this are great, because when you save Trent the ant, the living tree from the spiders, the first thing he says is, "Oh, hey, buddy," which is
Right.
very, very medieval greeting. So I love it.
It does sound like something a Trent would say, though.
Oh, what's up, dude? Hey, you want
What's
to...
up?
I got some
Yeah,
kind
thanks
bud
for
here.
killing
You
them
want to
spiders.
chill out and have
Yeah.
a smoke? And
And he would. Yeah.
You
It all
saw
makes
his eyes.
sense.
He was totally baked.
Yeah.
He is a tree. How is this game like Corey Feldman?
I've given up on coming up with Corey Feldman references. I can't do it anymore.
Well,
I don't know why.
I have picked the movie whose I guess art style and theme of saving, because at one point you do save that princess from one of the castles. A Corey Feldman movie, Citizen Toxie, The Toxic Avenger 4.
Nice.
So
Wow.
there's my Corey
I've
Feldman
seen
movie.
that one.
I didn't have a
Mine
Corey
was the
Feldman.
Goonies.
Yeah.
Because he plays Mouth in the Goonies. Ian's wearing, not just because Ian's wearing a Goonies shirt. I love that shirt though, but because the Goonies is the best D&D movie that is unlicensed.
Yeah.
Much like
Agreed.
King of Dragons is, I feel like, the best belt scrolling non-licensed fantasy game D&D beat 'em up that I played. I like it better than. I'm showing my hand a little bit, but I like it way better than Knights of the Round. Like
Agreed.
way better.
I think the art is better in Knights of the Round, but I
Yeah.
think that might be the only thing that I like better. I think everything
Yeah,
else
I mean,
is King of Dragons.
I think the enemies are so good in King of Dragons. Like the stages are super short, and then you fight this like set piece boss that for most of the time you do. Sometimes they reuse them.
Reuse them, yeah.
But I mean, the first time you see like the dragon rider with his pole arm, it's kind of like, wow, this is like a big, impressive boss. The first time you fight the last boss of the game, the dragon, and it's like you're fighting his head and his giant hand, and his body is just the background of the stage, and it's like it's pretty neat. I mean, I think they did a really good job. Like scale.
Goldar, the great Dragonian, because it looks like the Power Rangers. Goldar.
Oh yeah,
That's right.
Dragon with
Yeah.
the golden armor.
This game had a lot of. I felt there was a lot drawn from old beat 'em ups. Double Dragon in particular, because it had a lot of palette swaps. They had a couple of double bosses. It had a couple of bosses that, and by double bosses I mean 2 palette swaps of the same boss that you were fighting at the same time.
Oh yeah, the Black Knight to the Royal Knights.
They would have bosses that would repeat, where you'd fight the Minotaur on stage 2 and then would come back later. And then they would have bosses that were bosses in early levels and then were regular mooks in the level themselves. And there's so many different tropes that I feel this this borrowed from and used to make it. There's not a whole lot of like a really original stuff in this, but I felt like they did a really good job of grabbing from previous games and kind of using that to the best of their abilities for the time.
Yeah, when you brought up the guy with the pole arm riding around on his dragon or whatever, you know, that was a boss. And then literally in the next stage, we were fighting them as regular guys, like Phil said. And that's unusual. I don't know that I've seen very much of that.
It's pretty common in that genre.
I'm not super familiar.
Outside of that genre, not so much. But within the beat 'em up genre, especially of that time, for sure. Like Final Fight, all that you see that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But like, I agree, Phil. You're saying that mechanically. You're right. I feel like it's not really doing much special as far as combat goes mechanically, but I do think that it is doing some really neat things, like with the level progression system. I think that's really, really cool.
That was one of my good things.
Yeah,
the level progression.
Same.
I like that your character levels up, your weapon levels up, and in the case of the elf, your arrows level up.
Right.
Or
your
if
bow.
You're a fighter, it's a shield.
Yeah.
So your bow, everything levels up separately,
right?
Which I think is neat.
Yeah, it's cool. Your weapons and your whatever your secondary is they level up independently. Although that is really cool, but I think once you think about it a lot, it kind of becomes a thing where it's like, well, they do progress, but they're all progressing at a very like a specified time at a set rate. So it's kind of like you can kind of hand wave that a little bit.
Your weapons don't level up unless you get the level up out of a chest at the end of a stage or at the beginning of a stage, versus your character levels up throughout the progression of the game
based on how many points. Yeah, which I think that's neat, and I think it is neat to see how those two like mechanics play together. You saying when you pick them out of your weapons don't level up until you pick up new weapons out of the chest. Reminded me of something I was thinking about today, but I didn't have time to test. Phil, you might know the answer to this.
Yeah.
Does the game force you to pick up the upgrade? Like,
no.
Or will it eventually just continue, even if you don't pick the upgrade up out of the chest?
And in fact, I was looking at a game facts, and that was a strategy to power level your character, because you get experience points when you pick up treasure, when you kill enemies. That kind of changes at bosses, where you get experience just for hitting the boss.
Sure,
it's the same amount of experience for every hit, doesn't matter how powerful it is. So if you are underpowered, you can hit them more, and you can kind of power level up and skip certain weapon upgrades so that you have a weak weapon and really start to like grind some levels against some of the bosses. I didn't find it at all necessary to do that, but I can understand.
That is cool.
It is cool that you can do that and a beat 'em up. That's that's wild. I mean, like outside of like River City Ransom, I mean, I don't really think about stuff like I don't think about grinding in a beat 'em up. So that's interesting.
Which may have played a role. Ian, you were saying that you were the elf and you were gaining levels pretty quickly despite not picking up treasure. And the elf they got a ranged attack and it's relatively fast, but it's also super weak. So you're able to get a lot of hits on the boss and grind some experience that way.
Yeah,
that explains why I was able to keep up, because I was hitting more. Now, towards the end of the game, I was leveling my weapon every time, and it was hitting hard. Not probably as hard as the sword or the axe or something, but it was doing some good damage. But yeah, the rapidity of the attack and the fact that I could stand back and hit more without taking damage.
Yeah,
that explains that for sure.
Did you all play it multiple times? Did you guys? What was your favorite characters?
We played through it twice.
Yeah.
And I started off switching. I switched back and forth, but ultimately settled on Elf for, the last 2/3 of the game. And we got through it together with Tyler, you were the dwarf, and Dave was the cleric.
Yep.
And we got through it in probably about 50 minutes, give or take.
Yeah.
And then the second time we played through, I played
on hard mode.
On the hardest mode, which didn't feel much different.
The beginning, it felt a little more difficult, but then by the time we were like past the second stage, it felt very much like
interesting.
Yeah.
And I played fighter, Dave played wizard, and Tyler, you played cleric.
Yep.
And we we got through it faster that
We
time.
mowed through it.
Yeah.
on that
We
one.
really just destroyed it.
I feel like we had strong characters.
it's because we were
I
all
mean,
playing strong
right.
characters. Yeah, the wizard hits hard. He's
It's-
just weak.
Yeah.
The
And,
wizard is
we were talking.
amazing.
Yeah, dude, I love the wizard.
When we
Like,
got
I mean,
to the point where your staff or whatever leveled up and you were shooting fire
Yeah.
out, and I was like, oh damn, that was awesome. 'cause
Yeah.
it was super powerful.
Yeah, and it was nice because it was surprising because it's like it really was like exciting for that to happen the
I
first
know,
time.
I saw that. I was like, sweet.
Because it's like, oh wow, I'm shooting fire, and it's like, of course you are, dummy. It's a video game. You're a wizard, but it just went from like shooting little spurts to like, wow, I'm a wizard now.
And at one point you were, I think, full on Palpatine. I mean,
Yeah,
you were shooting
totally.
Lightning
The
bolts.
level 8
lightning,
weapon is
yeah.
lightning, and it feels very D&D that way, where your level 1 staff is like firebolt, and then you progress to kind of an burning hand style, just like long column of fire, and then there's like a weight, like every single weapon upgrade that you get for the wizard gives it a different ranged attack, which I thought was really, really cool, and it's even more complex with that. If you hit an enemy close up with the wizard, it will almost always kill them immediately, but the further away you hit them, the less damage it does. So there's kind of a scaling damage depending on where you're hitting them, and which is a fun.
Damn, that is cool.
Yeah, it's a really
That's deep.
like the depth of the game I find is really, really a big draw between the speed of the attacks, the defense, the different weapons, and their abilities. They're, even though the elf doesn't have a shield, so you can upgrade usually your weapons and your shield for your main characters. The wizard and the elf don't have shields, so the wizard gets amulets and rings, which you don't actually see on the character sprite, but those increase your defense, and you end up taking less damage as a result, which makes the wizard really, really tanky at the end of the game. They actually have really good defense, which is super surprising.
And like as far as HP goes too, because I mean, like by the time we beat the game the second time, and I was like looking at our life bars, because your life bar shows how much HP you have, and I was like, holy shit, I have the same amount of life as I can't remember who it was, but
It came up fast.
Yeah.
For you
Yeah.
as you leveled. Yeah, it was, you were like a quarter of the fighter's health, for example, and when we started, and by the time the game was ending, you were right up there with us.
which I do again, like to go back to tabletop D&D, especially of the era, I feel like is a good representation of that, where it's like you're playing a wizard at level 1. You're
suck.
trash. I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Yep.
but you're trash, and like you just have to survive. And if you survive long enough, you will be the most powerful thing in the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like you just have to survive.
I felt right around the 6th level. There's 16 levels in the game. Right around the 6th levels where I started feeling the wizard getting usably, like, where he wasn't a liability for me playing. It started actually being fun, which was neat.
I mean, I think we're already into the topic of good things, bad things.
Three good things.
I had mentioned the leveling system. I really thought that was interesting. I liked the character selection, even though it was a bit basic. I thought you could have a nice group. Like the second time we played, we were very powerful and got through it a lot faster than we did the first time. And then the other thing for me, I know this may not ring true for a lot of hardcore beat 'em up fans, but I like the simplicity of it. The fact that there's no throws, there's no picking up pipes or swords or shit like that. You've got what you've got when you start. You level that up. You've got your attack and you've got your jump, and then you've got your hit both buttons to make everything catch fire.
Your extra joy.
Your extra joy button which is really handy, because like when you die, like when it gets to the point where it says continue, your body leaves behind a nice power up for your surviving friends to hit
A spell.
and zap everyone on the screen for some
And
damage.
you can bump that down the road as you keep
Yeah,
going.
you
You
can
don't have
push
to
it.
use it at a bad time
Right.
like in a lot of other
You
games.
can be strategic with it.
Found myself wasting it a lot by accident, but I just like the fact that there's not a whole bunch of complex crap to do other than just fight and fight and fight.
I think I agree. On some points I do love beat 'em ups where you can throw and pick up weapons. Like normally because it's like I like beat 'em ups where I can control a crowd and where like a lot of the game is controlling that crowd and positioning. And I want this enemy there, that kind of deal, so that I can more efficiently take down this pack. And you're right, this game doesn't have that. But I do think the combat mechanics outside of that are so interesting that it compensates for that. So I guess my point is I feel like this is a good compromise between like, well, we don't have these like positioning strategic elements that you like, but we do have this new thing, this level progression thing that maybe you will. And it's like, yeah, I do. I like this a lot.
That was cool.
Yeah, I think among my good things is just the depth of, I guess, the variety in the character that's kind of behind the scenes. They don't put any of that out there, but each character, is kind of ranked 1 through 5 in terms of how much hit points they will have at the end of the game, what their attack power is, how good their defense is, how fast they are, how powerful their magic is, and what range they are. Even the melee characters have different ranges of effect, where the dwarf has a very, very short range. You really have to get up there, whereas the fighter has a much longer sword, and you can actually kind of attack from a little bit of distance and feel a little bit of safety from there. And it's, just the fact that you have that depth of character difference between these 5 different characters, and they play and they feel differently. And then when you're playing with 2 or 3 players, the composition matters. You can really complement each other with having a ranged person who can sit back there and pick off people and provide some cover fire, where someone can be up there in front and doing a lot of the melee damage and defending. I thought for a game that was, fairly formulaic, I felt they did a lot to provide some depth to that experience.
Yeah, I agree. And going back to the loot, I think that has a lot to do with me being satisfied with not being able to throw enemies and stuff, because I constantly felt like I had something to do.
Yeah,
which is I like that. I like that in a beat 'em up. I need that. Otherwise, it starts to feel very samey.
Yeah.
And it feels like I'm just mashing buttons, which, I mean, I might be different because I really do love this genre, but I at no point just felt like I was mindlessly mashing buttons.
It was fun. It was engaging enough to keep me busy and keep my mind off the fact that, I pretty much was just mashing buttons the whole time, but it was fun.
Yes.
It was, and it took care, the game takes care of the player in that way, where it keeps it interesting, but it keeps it real to the point of it being an entertaining game. Now, I will say that kind of takes me into one of the bad things I have to say about it, if I may.
Please.
And it's just that I did not care for this game in single player. To me, it was too hard, because nothing really changes when you're in single player. It's the same amount of monsters, it's the same amount of difficulty and everything else. I played it on SNES single player. Playing with you guys last night was awesome.
Yeah, it was a blast.
That game,
I thought it was a blast. I had a lot of fun.
I had so much fun, and that game really sings in multiplayer.
Yes.
It's the kind of deal where you don't want to walk up to that arcade game and play by yourself. You need to bring a couple of buddies or have some rando come up and play with you, because that's where this game shines. And if you don't have, Phil, you may know this. Was this multi-tap compatible?
I don't know.
To where you
I would imagine not.
Probably.
There's just, when you start up the game on the Super Nintendo, it's just 1 player and 2 player.
See, and I think that kind of sucks for this SNES port of it, because you don't get that 3-player party like we had, which was just awesome.
It was awesome. I will say though that to have 3, that would have been wild. I mean, really, it would have, just because
the processing.
I don't think you could handle it.
Because the sprites in this game are so you can tell that they really gave a shit about the art style in this game.
They did.
And talking about the port, I felt like the Super Nintendo game looked really good.
It really
did.
did.
It didn't look just like the arcade version, but you can tell that they tried.
Yeah.
And like I feel like
They succeeded
succeed.
For the majority of it. It's strictly technical limitations here. If they had a little bit more to work with, they probably could have replicated it on there. But yeah, it was really true to the arcade, and I was super impressed with that.
So one of the differences between the arcade and the port is, I think the fourth boss is the Hydra, whichever level boss it is. The Hydra has 3 heads in the arcade, and they're all going at once. And in the Super Nintendo, it starts out with 3 heads, kind of as to introduce the boss, and it's really slow and choppy until that third head pulls off, and it's just you versus 2. And I feel like if the Super Nintendo had a third character sprite on there, it would just be unplayably choppy. I think it was a technology limitation.
I got to that point playing single player, and what they do to compensate for that is the third head goes away, and then once you kill one of the 2, then the other one comes out,
right?
And you fight it. One of the other things, Phil, as well, speaking of that, is one of the bosses in the arcade game. Do you remember there was a guy we were fighting, and then these 2 dragons would pop out from time to time and shoot fire at us from the sidelines?
It's when you're fighting the Black Knight, I think.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That was not in the Super Nintendo.
The 2 dragons are not in the Super Nintendo version.
And that fight is way easier.
Oh yeah,
Super Nintendo version.
Oh yeah.
So remind folks listening, what did you guys play it on? Because I was playing on original I guess not original hardware. It was a whatever kind of Super Nintendo combo unit, but I was playing on original cartridge. But you guys were doing on the bundle, I think, which was the actual arcade.
We played the arcade version together. Yes.
Yeah.
I played my single player SNES on my Retroid,
and I played the single player SNES on my SNES, and captured it. If you go to the TADPOG YouTube channel, if you're listening to this and want to watch that playthrough, I did play through as the fighter because I was just going to play single player. I didn't really. I'm sure Nikki would have joined me if I would have asked her, but it was also kind of one of those things where it's like, well, I've already played through this game 4 times, the arcade version, because I played twice with y'all, and then previously I played single player through the arcade version twice. So it's like, I just want to get this one. I just want to play the Super Nintendo version once, see what it's like to compare, because obviously the arcade version's superior. But like, I played through as the fighter. I can't imagine playing through a single player game as like the wizard or the elf. Like, I mean, like you need some tanks. You need some people to take some hits.
So I played through it 3 times this morning, and I started with the dwarf, and I got to the end boss. I got to Gildas, the red dragon, and got Gildas down to 2 bars of health. There are 8 bars of health for every boss, and that's using all 3 hidden continues. You start with 2 continues. You get 5 lives per continue, and then there are 3 more hidden behind pillars and columns throughout the game that you can find. And the second playthrough I did with the elf, and I actually started out, the elf is a really solid starting character because you can just keep guys at a distance, but eventually the enemies get harder and harder, and you don't progress fast enough to be able to kill them at distance, and that I actually did worse with the elf. But I did the third playthrough with the wizard, and it was a relatively rough couple of levels starting out, but about halfway through the game, I was just mowing through enemies, and it became super easy. And I actually beat the game with 2 additional continues left to go, and 2 lives left on my third continue. So the wizard was an incredibly easy playthrough. I haven't done it with the fighter or the cleric yet, but the wizard was by far, of the 3 I tried, the easiest by a country mile.
I thought fighter was relatively easy to get through with, but it's just because that's just like utilizing his reach, because his reach is insane. Yeah. Like his reach is actually farther than the animation looks like. So it's like, and once I kind of like figured that out, it's like, I'm going to exploit this on every boss.
Do you know the name of the fighter?
Gosh, I don't. What's his name? Not Conan?
Derek.
Everybody
else has relatively kind of fantasy or medieval style names, and then there's Derek the fighter.
I saw in the Japanese Dereku.
What are the names of the others?
So there's Vargas the dwarf. There's Aldo the cleric. Ledger or Leger, Leger, the wizard. And then Ravel, or Ravel, I'm not sure, the elf.
Whose age is question mark. I
Same
think
with
it's
the dwarf.
interesting that they all have bios. And it's
Again, once again, that Lord of the Rings thing where the elves are super old.
right.
Yeah.
Right? They don't really talk about it, but they're old.
Yeah.
No blood type, though. We don't get the Capcom blood type.
Yeah, that is a little disappointing.
Well, where would this game fall for you guys? Like in the spectrum, is it a top 100, bottom 100, somewhere in the middle?
It's a top 100 for me.
I agree.
I would easily take another beat 'em up off the list, or honest, if I'm being real true to myself, I take a puzzle game off the list and throw this on there. I feel like this is a really, really strong showing. I mean, this is one that I would go back and play again and again. I do wish that maybe there were some. There are difficulty options in the menu. I don't know. I was trying to find something to nitpick, and I can't.
No.
For
I don't
me,
like the shields. I feel like the shield mechanic is kind of weak.
The block,
That was on
that
my
is
list
true.
as well. I didn't really. I see that your shield upgrades, and I don't know if that just adds to your hit points or if you're supposed to. You mentioned last night when we were playing, you're supposed to be able to, at the right moment, hold back, and the shield would work.
I had read that. I don't know if it's true, but something Phil probably does because I know he read the game facts. But something that lends credence to that is in the options on the Super Nintendo. There is the option to turn shield to manual or auto.
Oh,
Yeah, because
okay.
in typical Capcom Street Fighter beat 'em up fashion or fighter fashion, the default is you press back when the enemy attacks you to block. But unlike in a Street Fighter game, when you press back, you don't continue facing forward. You walk the other direction. So if you don't do it at the exact perfect frame, you just turn around and then the enemy hits you in the back. And I find the blocking mechanic to be really, really poorly done in the game.
Yep.
And it's part of why I enjoy the wizard and the elf as much as I do, is because you don't have to really fuck with that at all. It's just pure offense.
And I didn't do it when I was playing the fighter. I didn't bother. I didn't bother trying because it was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to kill him.
Right, yeah, totally.
I don't have time to. Everything was attacking all at once.
Right.
There was no perfect moment.
Right.
So if I'm blocking this guy, I might drop my guard and just get hit by the next guy. So
Right.
there wasn't a whole lot of point in it.
Other things that, kind of we're picking nits on this thing, it fell into that trope of beat-em-ups from the time where there's just unblockable damage, and I feel that's a result of it being an arcade port where you need to chew through quarters, so there's going to be situations where you have no alternative but to take damage from a boss, and that can be very frustrating when you've got limited continues and you're watching, if you're fighting the end boss or you're fighting Gildas, and if you get up close to its face, which you have to if you are a melee character, then the claw that is kind of dangling above you will reach over and grab it. You cannot dodge the claw. It just picks you up and throws you away for a set amount of damage, and it's just unavoidable. And I always find that type of mechanic very frustrating.
Yeah, it's always like they always do it on the last boss too, because it's like, well, you're in for a penny, out for a pound, where it's just kind of like. Hopefully I used that idiom correctly, but it's essentially, hey man, you already spent $20.
Right.
Like, are you really going to walk away now?
You gonna stop at the boss?
Well, give us 20 more so you can beat this boss, and then you say
Some
that
cost
you did
fallacy.
it. Yeah.
I feel like we talked about this. We think in our second playthrough we probably burned about $6 or $7 a piece continuing.
That's not bad.
I felt like it was pretty cheap.
That would have been a lot
But
better
then again-
than Simpsons Arcade or X-Men. Easy.
Yeah, X-Men. Oh my God, that Magneto fight. I mean, that Magneto fight is just like, how much do you have? I remember playing that at the with the group at the Louisville Arcade Expo. What's the name of that restaurant? I can't remember the name of it all of a sudden. That has
Dairy Queen.
No, that's where I throw up. The other place. Anyway, it's a restaurant that has like a bunch of arcade machines. It is a barcade. Yeah. Is it just barcade?
I thought it was just barcade. I could be wrong.
I think you might be right. They have X-Men there, and I remember playing that with the full group, and it was like I was worried that we were going to run out of quarters or tokens because people are just throwing them up on the control panel, being like, whoever needs them, take them. Because Magneto's killing us all constantly.
So, is there a chance that the Magneto fight is actually a very meta fight where Magneto is drawing your quarters into the machine? I don't know if quarters are magnetic, but it feels very appropriate.
He can control all metal, not just magnetic metal.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's whatever the plot needs him to control, he can do it.
I remember reading that one comic where he ripped the quarters out of Wolverine's pocket. It was very traumatic, and he had to go live in the woods because he didn't have any money anymore.
He went feral because he didn't have any money.
Right, exactly. I thought the music in this game was good. So I looked into it, and it's by a composer named Yoko Shimomura, who did the music for like Breath of Fire, which makes sense being a Capcom game, but like Kingdom Hearts, like a bunch of the Kingdom Hearts. Like I was reading them, like there's this many Kingdom Hearts games.
Yeah.
She did the music for that and The Legend of Mana, and the Mario and Luigi game series. Super Mario RPG was on that list, and Xenoblade Chronicles and Street Fighter 2. And I was like, hell yeah. I don't feel like it was.
Damn.
I mean, it was great music, and there is a level in this game. It's like one of the caverns, and when I was listening to it, I was like, did they like get the inspiration from this song to do the music in like the library and Symphony of the Night, which I think is like one of like that's a great track.
Yep.
But I was listening to it and I was like, this sounds like has like a lot of similarities to that. So that's a long way of saying I like the music.
Cool.
I wish the info was a little more clear. Like whenever you went like to the character selection, that you got like stats, so you could see how hard they hit, reach, quantify how fast they level up. Because the cleric, for everything I read, the cleric levels up faster than some of the other classes. The dwarf will level lower. So it's just, I wish the differences were more clearly defined when you were at character select.
Yeah, at character select that would be nice. They do get into that a little bit in the attract modes, but I mean, in order to do that, you have to sit through. I think it's like 5 minutes of attract modes to get through all of that.
Yeah.
That seems like something, and I didn't find a copy of the instruction manual. That seems like something that at the time would have been in the instruction manual. I was able to find that information on Game Facts, where you can see, the elf is ranked 4th in hit points and 5th in attack and 5th in defense, 1st in speed, etc., etc. And the reason the cleric is so powerful, is such a good character, is that he is 3rd in his worst stat. He's like 1st, 2nd, and 3rd compared to everybody else. Everyone else is kind of like min-max. So you're really good at something and really bad at something, but the cleric is kind of like the improved Mario of the 5.
Jack of all trades.
I do
Master
wish,
of a few.
Speaking of like jack of all trades, I mean, I do think that, and we're picking nits, I would have loved if there was like a thief character in this game. I mean, that would be a lot of fun to play, where it's like the mechanic is, if you're behind somebody, you can deal backstab damage. I mean, like you can deal, like I feel like there could be some fun to be had.
To round out the full
thief.
real D&D party.
Right.
Yeah, there was a thief, but you
just
couldn't
not
be
playable.
In the arcade version, there's a thief. Yeah, and I think that's great because it's like, if like you leave treasure on the ground long enough, usually in a beat 'em up, it eventually disappears with no reason, and that is how it happened. That's how it works in the Super Nintendo version. It just evaporates. But in the arcade version, if it sits there long enough, a thief will run from the side of the screen, pick it up, and run off, and you have the opportunity to hit the thief and retrieve it.
Get a bag full of question mark.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Bag full of duck cloacas. Could be anything in there.
Well, do you guys have any achievements?
I do.
Got a couple.
My first achievement, we discussed this last night. Elf needs food badly. And to get that, you kill a boss with the elf with all but one of your health gone. Like you're just one more hit and you're dead, but you got that boss. That happened to me. The next one is, you've heard of Elf on the Shelf. How about Dwarf on the Wharf? And to get that, you fight alongside the dwarf character as Elf on the moving boat. On the boat level where it's moving and you're fighting all the monsters that are coming.
Alternative Chivo, Cleric with Derek, the fighter.
Cleric with Derek, yes.
Good one. Next one I have is nobody tosses a dwarf. It's one of my. I only had one actually. The Lord of the Rings reference. I get picked up and tossed across the screen by the big red dragon Gildas at the end. And my final achievement is Yoga Fire, and have all 3 party members get burned Dalsum style by the dragon at the end at the same time. All 3 of you getting toasted, because the animation for when you catch fire is exactly that. It's the Capcom you catch fire animation.
They got mileage out of that. Engulfed in flames. Like, I mean, they were like, "Yep, we're on to something."
It's
here.
a good animation.
Yep.
We're gonna keep it. Yep.
When you get that, when all 3 of your party members get fried by Gildas at the same time.
Dalsum style chicken, very big in India, by the way.
I've got a few achievements as well. My first is Fig 8, Make You Cry. And in order to unlock Fig 8, Make You Cry, you need to upgrade your weapon to Fig 8. I don't know why they call the upgrades in this game. They're prefaced with Fig?
Fight?
Like
F-I-G? F-I-G-H-G?
What, Phil?
Is it fight? Is it an abbreviation for fight or fighter?
Probably is. I guess I didn't pay it. Yeah, I guess it is. So Fig 8, you have to be the fighter in order to unlock it. Man, I was like, my brain was just like, I guess figure, because it was like a figure.
I figure you'll need this.
Like a figure and like a diagram or something. My next achievement is hold dwarf gently like a hamburger. In order to unlock hold dwarf gently like a hamburger, you have to play as the dwarf and get grappled by the Cyclops as he raises you to his mouth, much like a hamburger. Dude, I laughed that was so funny to me last night. We're playing and like Tyler's playing the dwarf, and the Cyclops, this giant Cyclops, literally grabs him and pulls him up to his mouth like he's gonna eat a hamburger. I loved it so much. Also, the dwarf's face was so fucking great. Next achievement. Dragon Ian. In order to unlock Dragon Ian, you have to defeat the Dragonian boss of stage 11 with your friend who is named Ian. And the last achievement I have is Unlimited Power. In order to unlock unlimited power, upgrade the wizard's weapon until he can cast Lightning Bolt.
Phil?
So I got 2, but I've got alternatives for them. So the first one I have is, so he was made of frogs the whole time. And that is defeat the dark wizard Majin Hugo, who's described as Gildas's right-hand man, who's, I think, the boss of level 13, who, when you kill him, will evaporate into a bunch of frogs. And the alternative Chivo for that is, there are some who call me Hugo. And the other one I have is, it's raining orcs. Hallelujah, it's raining orcs. And that is kill an orc before it touches the ground, because there are 2 ways that enemies come in. Sometimes they'll come in from the side. Sometimes they'll just drop from the ceiling, orcs and skeletons included. Yeah. So if you can kill one before they actually touch the ground, they get that. And the alternative Chivo for that is let the bodies hit the floor in honor of the theory that the two songs, It's Raining Men and Let the Bodies Hit the Floor, are interpretations of the same event from two different people.
Nice.
I had two. First one, Valve Poverty, Pick Up No Treasure, which I almost did in my first playthrough because I noticed as the dwarf, I don't know, I didn't like rushing over and trying to pick treasure that I didn't like immediately chop an enemy to get. Then I noticed I was like 3 levels lower than everybody else because 1, the dwarf levels up slow, 2, I was getting the treasure. So it got better once I was like, all right,
You
so
gotta
unwritten rule, everybody just grab whatever you can. It's fine.
No, written. I said it.
Get in the pit and try to love someone.
Grab the shit. If you don't grab it, I'm grabbing it.
That's the alternative for that. Get in the pit and try to love someone.
My second one is Eat 'em at the library.
Nice.
Eat 10 strawberries.
Nice.
Yes, Scrubs reference. Yes. The best Scrubs reference. You're redder than a strawberry.
So, speaking of the food, so one thing I wanted to point out, which is like I think a cool attention to detail thing. What is one of the most frustrating parts of a beat 'em up is that when you're playing and the life power up drops, but you've got full life, so it's useless to you. Except in this game, where if you eat a health power up when you've got full life, it goes onto your experience points.
Yeah.
So you're still benefiting from eating life that doesn't help you, which I thought was an awesome small little detail.
Yeah, that is great. And I mean, I know we didn't talk about the enemies a whole lot, but I mean, I think the enemies are great. You are fighting a lot of the same ones, but like they kind of their appearance changes too. Like the skeletons get better weapons and better shields later on,
or they'll put 2 in there instead of 1, so you fight 2 of the different ones. And I like that a lot.
And I think there are Sahagins in this game, which is like very interesting. And I thought it was enough. It was enough for me. And the little harpies and like all that. And it was.
So that made me remember one thing that I wanted to point out is this game has a very Disney universe approach to dragons, the way Disney approaches dogs, because there are sentient, upright walking dragons, and then there are like herd dragons that you ride that are not sentient. It's the difference between Goofy and Pluto, and this game doesn't really know where dragons exist in the whole hierarchy of species.
It's true, and neither of those types are wearing pants.
No.
So if one of those is taking a nap, you don't know what you're dealing with.
It's fucking cloacas just hanging out all over the place.
And we talked about the spells a little bit too, but like Phil, when you had your frogs achievement, it reminded me that it's like there are a bunch of different spells in this game that like the orbs that you pop. And like one of those is it transforms all the enemies on the stage on the screen into frogs.
Yeah.
There's a meteor spell. There's I think it's really cool. There's
fire
like
and lightning.
8 or 10 of those. Yeah, it's cool.
And actually, so we kind of glossed over this a little bit, but in typical beat 'em up fashion, you do the extra joy, you do the magic spell. It takes life away from you, but as a way to kind of balance that a little bit, the fighter and the dwarf, it takes more life away from you to kind of illustrate that they are worse at magic than some of their counterparts.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's a nice
depth.
That's a
this
nice
game has
detail.
depth.
It's real. This game is really designed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They just thought about a lot of like the mechanics are very designed, and I think that's cool. I like it. How much do you guys think this game is?
I bet this is a rare one, is what I would imagine. I've never seen a copy in the wild. Phil, you played it on an emulator, right?
No, I have the game, and actually,
You do have it.
I looked this up last year because we were in the middle of doing a trust where we're having to go to a lawyer and figure out our whole will and how much our estate is worth and everything. So I was going through my game collection and trying to figure out how expensive everything was. So I have a vague idea of what King of Dragons worth, but it's been about 6 to 9 months, so I'm not totally sure. I'll let you guys kind of guess first and then give my somewhat informed opinion on it.
I know the answer, so I can't guess. So
Yeah. Ian?
it's left up to you two.
I have never heard of it either. I never saw it. I didn't know anything about it. That doesn't mean much. That counts for a lot of these for me. But I'll go high. I'll say $68.
$68.
I'll say 40.
$40 from Tyler.
That sounds
All
right.
right, Phil. Time to weigh in.
I feel like it's somewhere in the $35 to $60 range. I'm going to say 55.
55.
Yeah.
Actual retail value of King of Dragons for the Super Nintendo, loose on average, according to PriceCharting.com, is $118.07.
Holy cats.
Which is a heartbreak for me because I would like to buy this game. But I don't know if I $118 want to buy it.
I'll sell my copy for $110.
Deal. Sucker. Tyler,
Yes, Dave.
if you were to give this game a beard that sums up how you feel about it, what kind of beard would it be?
Just because you mentioned it, how you wish as the wizard got more powerful that your beard would grow longer.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
So I'd give this the atypical long white wizard beard.
I like that a lot. Yeah, because the wizard in this game has like a nice
a
cropped
cowl.
facial hair, and yeah, sometimes doesn't have a face. Yeah, I think you only see it when he takes his cowl down.
There's art in the Japanese manual that shows he's got like a nice short cropped beard.
Yeah, he's a young fledgling wizard.
Yeah.
He's one of the characters is like 30. I think the oldest character is 34.
I think the cleric's 34, and I think the fighter and the wizard are in their late 20s.
Yeah.
And then the other two are unknown.
Tyler,
Yes, Dave.
if you were to get this game a pair of glasses, what kind of glasses would you give it?
Well, I feel like I of course I like the thief character. I feel like there should be a thief character like we talked about. But if there was a DLC character, it would have to be a pirate. So I feel like there'd have to be a pirate DLC for like $9.99. You get the pirate character.
The pirate pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd have to give it the pirate spyglass as some sort of glasses. No one's got glasses in this game, so what would they have? Well, they might have a spyglass.
Spyglass.
A scope.
All right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some cartographer's tools.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I have some very unfortunate news to announce.
Rip.
We have lost a member of the TADPOG podcast.
I don't know
Flopsy.
how that happened.
Flopsy is dead.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Flopsy
Flopsy
no
is-
longer functions as a book.
Flopsy is.
What in the world?
I think that's mold.
Don't get that very too close
did-
to your face, dude, because that
I
may
wonder
be
how that
mold.
would have even.
Or if it's mildew, that's better.
It's
But
been in Tyler's bathroom.
Could you hand me the hand sanitizer? I just handled the corpse of Flopsy.
I guess
But
it's
the-
been down there
It's just covered in piss.
while you've been doing the Scott Pilgrim game. So.
Yeah.
That's sad.
So I'm sorry, Flopsy.
Now
You will be remembered always in our hearts.
in memory of Flopsy, I give this game 4 stars.
4 stars. Yeah, I
Resin
hope.
Sage says, check it out.
I would assume that this was very uncommon and 3.5 stars.
3.5 feels
I
right.
thought.
I would have bought this, by the way. This is as a rent
Yeah.
or buy. I would have
Oh,
bought this.
sorry, I forgot to ask that.
yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, I would have too. I have it in my notes. Yeah, but I just forgot to mention. I would totally have bought this. And then if a friend came over, it would be one of those where it's like, hey, do you want to play King of
You
Dragons?
definitely want to play King of Dragons.
Because I haven't beat it 2-player yet, and I'd like to, kind of deal. Yeah,
I wonder if I can get a shadow box for Flopsy and put it on the wall.
I love that idea.
that.
I do. I love that idea
I'll go look at Michael since I refuse to go to Hobby Lobby any longer.
because they moved, right?
Right. That's another part of it. They're on the bad side of the mall now. Well, I guess that's pretty much all we got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a quiz for our third segment, but our first segment was very long, and I feel like our second segment was long and good. I mean, I feel like all this was good. So no third segment.
A lot to say today.
This week.
Yeah, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it.
Word.
So thanks for listening, everybody. You can find the show on iTunes, not SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, just all over the place. Just Google TADPOG. Not TapDog, TADPOG.
Not TADPOG.
Google's going to say, did you mean tadpole? Say no.
No, I did not. Just like I Googled, why wasn't Jesse in the Saved by the Bell movie? And Google was like, did you mean why wasn't Jesus in the Saved by the Bell movie?
No.
It's like, no, but if that's the thing people are asking, I do want to see the answer.
Now
Jesus
that
and
you
Buddha
mention it.
can't be in the same movie.
So while I'm looking up some more Patreon content, you got some executive producers, Ian?
I do. I have a list, and as I've mentioned before, you are legally required to listen to this list. Also, if you want to throw us a buck, we'd
You
love
are
to
also
have it.
legally required to
We
throw us
do
a buck.
Put it towards the show.
Patreon.com/tadpog.
Patreon.com/tadpog. And the people that I'm about to read to you are the ones that donate to us every single month, $25 or more. And I will start this list with cousin David Galino, Temporal Eternal Savior, Cubicle Monkey, Plinko Nick Price, executive producer Dig Dougie, Cthusiast Jeff Miners, Master Cycle Baron Kevin Link, Bantha Master, Gamebug Prime Nathan Eaton, Matt Gentile, aka Gentle G, congratulations on your marriage, Usurper Grimm, Princess Banana Hammock, Flavor Trick, Taryn Landon, Pinball Archmaze, Chris Edler, we're sorry you couldn't be on this episode, Platinum member Brett Miller, some stranger named Sandwich Pope, Phil Hawkins, I don't know who that is.
I think it's Sandwich Pop.
Sandwich Pope, Phil Hawkins, Nate from Utah, first time caller, and Sick Jake. We're sorry you fell for the marketing. Thank you guys.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're
Except
welcome.
for Phil.
Except for Phil.
Phil, thanks for being on.
Happy to be on here. This is my first episode in the 600s. I was looking through. I'd done on a bunch in the 500s,
Wow.
and then once you guys started doing some of the actual play stuff and having Ian on a little bit more regularly, then I know my place. So
You're always
Well, we had a
welcome.
randomizer like amazingness for a while where we kept drawing the games on your short list.
for real,
that is
I was
true.
looking
I
back,
was like,
and it's
can you do this in your marriage be okay? 'Cause you've done several of these.
that reminds me. Are we going to do a randomizer to determine the next game after Scott Pilgrim, or whenever you guys need to do another game?
Absolutely,
will.
we
Definitely
are.
do that.
Okay.
Are you guys ready to do that? Are you
Yeah,
ready
let's
to
do
pray?
that.
Do it.
Come on,
Okay.
Lord of the
You just
Rings,
wanted to pray, Phil?
Volume 1. Let's go.
Oh, shit. All right, let me go get this batter up peripheral, plug it in, put my head on it while I'm crazy kid style, say the prayer we all love to say. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop.
2:14.
Not Lord of the Rings.
No,
It's not Lord of the Rings.
It's maybe the F's or the G's.
It is, in fact, the G's.
All right.
Here's a hint. If you want to stop guessing, we've already done it.
Oh,
It's Gradius 3.
oh, okay. Well, let's pray again. Let's start it all over.
All right.
No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop.
5:58.
Have we done
Ooh,
it?
That's up there.
We have done it.
Damn.
It is Super Battle Tank 2. You want to start the machine up again? It's very
Let's do it.
expensive
Here
every time
go.
we do it.
Gas,
but I mean,
gas is fucking through the roof.
I know.
We got to do it.
I know.
All right. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop.
186.
Bubsy.
Not Bubsy.
Have we done it?
We've done it.
God damn it.
Damn.
It is Final Fantasy 3.
Well, that doesn't exist in the normal scheme of things anymore.
That is true.
So how about we redo that?
You want to redo Final Fantasy 3?
Let's redo Final Fantasy 3.
All right. I'm good with that. Ian, are you good with that?
Sure.
All right. Final Fantasy 3
It works that we're doing this intermittently with Scott Pilgrim, so there's time to
Yeah.
revisit it.
to play it. Yeah.
Yep.
Game of the month. Is it too late to nominate? Probably is.
Yeah, it's too late to nominate. You could nominate for next month.
All right.
I think. Yeah, I don't know. You have to. Dane is the new president of the TADPOG
A regime
Game
change.
of the Month Club. On
Dane is the new
Discord.
King of Dragons.
Dane, King of Dragons.
Well, our theme song is Moved by Sycamore Drive. Look at that track from the shorts at tadpog.com. How you guys want to close it out? Phil?
As the muffled voices of the characters in this game, which sound like you're hearing them through a very, very poorly maintained drive-through box.
That weird...
Yeah. I mean, that's like... every time I heard that, I thought of Superman that hoe. Every time that you're victorious, they're all like, oh!
All right, so until next time...
Shall we?
Let's do it.
Yep.
I am back.
Phil, are you back? Oh, Phil's back.
Oh,
Shit, I
I've
didn't
been
even
waiting
realize.
here for you guys and
Right.
looking at Wikipedia. Sorry, I didn't speak up.
My bad, dude. No. I would have stopped way earlier.
Did you guys go out for a
and
cigarette break?
My bad.
That's
I did.
like that seems like a long break. I was sitting here. I'm like, someone's having a cigarette.
They're
we've been
definitely
in-
fucking each other.
We've been in here
They're
talking.
definitely not
here
to
talking about
completion.
Local
But-
Paducah.
Not to complete. No, it takes me a long time, Phil. I don't know if you've been paying attention over the years. But
Get a few days of recharge. Maybe.